Welcome to Order 42. I am Rob, and today, very excited. I'm very, very excited. A good friend is going to be on the show today, so I want you all to meet her. So, everybody say hello to Hope! Hope, how are you doing?
Good. I don't know. Can people see me now? I don't know.
Yes.
I feel like
I
Ricky
switched
Bobby.
over.
I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Hello, Rob. I'm so excited that we finally get to do this. I feel like we kept putting this off by stuff.
No, it's great. It's great. I'm so happy that you could be on. And yeah, it's one of those things where I understand. Things happen, and sometimes you have to say, okay, maybe not today, maybe next week. It's no big thing. So don't even sweat that. It's fine. It's fine. And hey, Bucho is here. So
Bucho!
Hi, Bucho.
Hi, Bucho. How's it down under? Is it really warm? Isn't it like summer there?
Bucho says, is this the episode all about how Zero the Hutt was definitely one of the top 5 Star Wars characters of all time?
No. Especially thanks to this now. This has a lot of the top characters of all time now in it. So
Really?
it's right
Really?
here. High Republic's real good, man.
I want to ask you about it. I am so behind on my reading. Like, I think I'm trying to remember.
See my Goodreads. I'm in the middle of 3 different Star Wars books, and I put them all on hold for that. So I still haven't even finished like a Blue Husbando book, and I've always had Blue Husbando books to read, and I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, Thrawn, but I have to read High Republic now.
Yeah, I don't even know where I am. I think the next book that I have to read is the second book in the first Thrawn trilogy.
Oh, I love that. Alliances?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, let me give you the hint of how to read Thrawn Alliances, because it's very hit and miss with people. I've read that fan fiction before that book ever came out. And it's written just like a fan fiction of like, oh, like Thrawn knows a secret about Vader, and now they have to work together. What's gonna happen? Hijinks ensues. And the entire book's written like a freaking comedy. There's an entire thing where like Anakin and Thrawn are talking, and like it's an entire page and a half of Anakin trying to pronounce Thrawn's name. And it's absurd. It's an absurd book. So if you read it like a comedy, when you actually hit those dramatic moments, they're going to hit so much harder because you're just going to be like, this is all fun. Oh, God, everyone's going to die. So, like, read Thrawn Alliance is like a comedy. And I don't think Zahn intended it for it to be as funny of a book as it is, because it's hilarious. Vader gets attacked by bugs that, like, freeze his, like, that sticks him to the cement. And he's just sitting there like, damn it. The cement. Because Darth Vader's a drama queen. He has Anakin Skywalker inside of him. And Anakin Skywalker is the biggest dramatic bitch ever created. And, like, okay, Vader, he throws his cape around and does cape flips because he's a dramatic queen. Don't choke on your aspiration. That is bitch queen Anakin Skywalker coming in. Hi, y'all. This is Hope.
Sorry. See, well, I haven't even started it yet. I'm so, like I said, I'm so behind that, I mean, I knew that was coming, right? I knew that all that stuff was coming. I just don't know. I'm so behind on my stuff that it's like what I wanted to do is I wanted to read all the Star Wars books in release order, right? So I can try to keep up. I'm so behind. It's ridiculous now. So I don't know if I should just go ahead and read Light of the Jedi or just, I don't know.
I mean, I would say that I enjoyed it. I killed that book in like a week. Light of the Jedi is interesting because, well, I should preface by saying, like, I'm not a Legends person, so, like, I never, like, got into, like, I read some Legends, like, excuse me, like, you know, a little bit of Blue Husbando, but it's just different, you know, it's a different kind of thing. So, going into this, well, for one, Light of the Jedi is just something I'm really, really wanting. Don't get me wrong, I love the Skywalkers, I love the Skywalker saga, but I'm so ready for new Star Wars. And I feel like so much is hindered on, like, or is, like, stuck in the Skywalker saga. You can only do so much with characters that you've had for 40 years. You're going to eventually run out of stories. And so, like, having this era, it's so familiar, but it's so drastically different. Like the villain Marchion Ro, who is beautiful and sexy, and oh my god, he can step on me. Like he's so interesting because he's not a Sith, and he's something new and unique. And I've been wanting new Star Wars. There's so many alien characters. I always want more aliens in Star Wars, and I understand like the budgetary constraints of like the movies and stuff like that. That's why I love animation. Animation is like my first love of Star Wars because you can have something like Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance to see how the galaxy should always look. I always say that Resistance is how I think Star Wars should look at all times because it's just such a huge mixture of aliens and humans with different skin tones. You know, yeah. Resistance is like the gold standard of that, and that's what High Republic is. Like you have characters like right here. There's two aliens right here, but you also have other characters like Bell. What's Bell's last name? Well, Bell, and like he is a black man with dreadlocks, and I'm just like, yes. Like, thank you for giving us diversity finally in Star Wars because that's something that's really important. That's, you know, I could go into a whole spiel about Disney and Lucasfilm and how far behind the times they are. It just depends on how much of that you want to talk about.
Well,
Girl,
and I think
we're getting into this.
Yeah, and I think too, it's a lot of I don't know. It's almost like they don't react until someone says something, and then when they finally start doing it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is like for example, I'll give you the best, probably the best example. And then I'll probably
give you a counter example because I've talked about this before.
What, Rogue One?
Well, I was gonna talk about this Disney in general being behind on the times. They let Netflix and Cartoon Network and all of them and Nickelodeon take their hits and their falls first, and now they get to like come in and just be like, look at the games that we have with Owl House, ooh, and Disney made headlines. They made international headlines last year with the Enchanting Grom fright from Owl House, and it was the headline of gay animation around the world. And so when you have something like that, like they let all the other companies take the hits, and then they slid in there because they're like, now we can do this too. Because my friend Brian from Pink Milk, who is which is one of the many, many beautiful queer Star Wars podcasts out there, he always says that, you know, when it comes to something like Star Wars or even animation stuff like that, Disney's its whole damn train. It's a train. But they're trying to jump on other people's train when they are a train of their own and they're not leading that train, but they're already jumping on what other people have done the groundwork to do. Because if you really want to get into this, we can trace Disney back. I mean, back in 2012, 13, Alex Hirsch had this beautiful show called Gravity Falls, which has a show called Gravity Falls. And he wanted to put two little lesbians in it. And Disney flat out said no. They said, and he answered their censors with a single word, which was why. And they couldn't have an answer for him, to the point where they refused to send him emails. They would only talk to Alex Hirsch on the phone, so there wouldn't be a paper trail of them showing that they were pretty much submitting themselves to bigots. Because this is also in the same time of stuff like the Good Luck Charlie controversies. You know, Good Luck Charlie was ending, and their second to last episode had two lesbian moms on it. People lost their mind. Like, why do you think it's always a big thing when people is like, oh, this Pixar movie has a gay in the background that you don't see, you know, because they're submitting to these mothers. But then it gets even more detailed and broken down, because when you break it among the different organizations under the Disney umbrella, that's when it gets a little bit more more wishy-washy and a lot more nuanced, because you can have a show like Owl House. You know, 8 years ago, Alex Hirsch wasn't able to have little gay ladies in his animation, but as of last year, you know, Owl House had Luz Maceta, who is not only a Latin character, she's the first bisexual lead on Disney. You know, and then you also have Amity Blight in that show, who is a lesbian, and they couldn't do that 8 years ago, which actually says a lot, because Alex Hirsch is one of the he's one of the voice actors for the show. He voices King and Hootie and a lot of other characters. So he has actually seen in less than a decade his show being barred from doing queer content to working on a show now where it's making international headlines. But that work wouldn't have been done if not for him taking his hits earlier, if not for the work of people like Rebecca Sugar on Steven Universe, Noelle Stevenson with She-Ra. It's now like a fad, and like people have learned how to make money off this, and that's what it did. That's what it comes down to. Is Disney has figured out that having queer content makes money. You know, I'm sorry, I can't help this up.
No, it's okay.
It's like washed out.
No, it's okay.
But like,
it's okay.
But Disney doesn't see us as people. Don't get me wrong. I love Disney. I love Marvel. I love Star Wars. But I have huge issues of Disney as a corporation because they don't care about us as humans. They care about us as money. They see us as walking wallets. And they make that known over and over and over again throughout the years. I mean, I just named all that. I mean, if you really want to go really, really get like really deep into like the problems of Disney as a corporation, you know, look at what just happened with the movie Mulan that just came out, the live action Mulan. It was revealed that Disney had given money to the same area where Muslim concentration camps are in China. They're still there as we're talking right now. And money gave those people money. You know, this is the same company that protected John Lasseter. That the only reason that his controversies came out was because of the Me Too movement. So, like, when it comes to things like this, it's good to praise what's working, but also, like, call out the problems as well.
Right.
I mean, look at the Baby Yoda stuff. You know, Kelly Marie Tran and John Boyega would do horrific racist harassment from the Star Wars fandom. But when this whole thing, and Disney didn't say a word, they didn't come out and support their actors, they didn't come out and do anything. But with this whole Frog Lady controversy when The Mandalorian season 2, they released statements to protect a freaking puppet. They were more willing to protect a puppet than their own human beings working for their corporations. And it's a problem. It's a problem. Like, it's, I think when we watch media, we have to know what our moral lines in the sand are, and knowing when to cross them and when not to cross them. And I feel especially this way, like when it comes to stuff like Gina Carano. You know, if that new Rangers of the Republic show is going to be her show, I'm not watching it. I'm not putting my money in that because I've had to comfort my transgender siblings because an actor that they love doesn't see them as equal. So.
Well, and it's...
We started heavy, Rob.
Hey. But it's...
What is the chat saying? Are they like, oh shit, you should have brought this girl on?
No. Well, Bucho was just saying at one point, he said, I've done 6 days in a row of my read at least 15 minutes a day in 2021 goal, not to brag. But
I did too.
Hey. I mean, that's more than I've been doing lately. I mean, that's totally a thing. But yeah, I mean, I will just say that the only thing that I will say is from a business standpoint, they're huge. And I almost feel like they try to hit the most buttons as they can with everything they do. And if it doesn't have a big enough button, then they just won't do it. But they're realizing now that they don't have to hit 100% of the audience every single time. We can have this kind of story and this kind of story and this kind of story and this kind of story. And what you end up doing is you end up seeing all of these different points of view, and it ends up enriching everything. Like, for example, I can't remember the character's name in Aftermath. Who's the first?
Oh, I haven't read Aftermath.
Well,
is it Sinjir?
Say that one more time.
Sinjir?
I think that, yeah. It was the first gay character in Star Wars, right? The first.
Oh, yeah, in the new canon.
I think so,
yeah,
right?
in the new canon, yeah, it's Sinjir.
Yeah. But it was done in a way that it enriched his character, but it wasn't like... It was, to me, it did it the way that I felt like it really should have been done. Because it was, hey, here's this character. He's really cool. Oh, and he just happens to be gay, too. And it's like, oh, well, then that's cool. And then every now and then something will come up that will address it. And then they move on. And it was, to me, it was done really well. Now, I don't know. I haven't read a whole lot of the like I said, I'm way behind on the canon. But I feel like that was like a good way to introduce it to people that weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? It's almost like
But then what happened after that? You know, Chuck Wendig got thrown under the bus. Like, he was attacked by fans who were just like, not that, and Disney didn't come out and protect him. In fact, when he became really vocal, they dropped him from the line, and he doesn't write Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, I don't. Well, no, that's a good point.
That's where I talk about moral lines in the sand. Like, we have to, we have to pick and choose and stuff. Like, right now, even as we're speaking, like, Justina Ireland has been getting viciously attacked just for the audacity of releasing a High Republic book and speaking out against racists. It's been happening all week. Like, and you don't see, and that's my problem with, I think, my biggest problem with the Big Mouth, because nothing is perfect, but the Big Mouth can never be wrong, and they won't come out and say their mistakes and apologize for them.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't support John Boyega until he gave his very famous Black Lives Matter speech in London. And then that's when, like, the next day is when all their statements that were pretty much just copied and pasted across all their marketing came out. And they were like, we have always supported John Boyega. And then he followed up with, I think, his Vogue interview, and he was like hell they did.
Yeah,
man, that's been my favorite is, like, Oscar Isaac and John Boyega completely free of their Disney contract, and they're just like, let me tell you what actually happened.
Well, and that's what's weird, though, is that, like, I almost feel like, Oscar Isaac is going to be Moon Knight, right? And it's like...
That's where it's all separate, and that's actually a very interesting point where I was saying, like, it gets really nuanced. Because they're all under the Disney umbrella, but they each have their own kind of pillar. Like, when you take something, like, let's start small and work out. So I keep talking about Owl House, it's a wonderful show. It's absolutely amazing. If you don't know what the Owl House is, it's about a girl named Luz Noceta, and she's a human, and she accidentally goes through a door into this magical world where she decides that she wants to learn how to be a witch. And she meets a woman named Ida the Owl Lady, and she starts attending a school called Hexside. Lots of bashing Harry Potter jokes, I promise. So good. But, you have this show that has been praised for how it's been writing queer characters, especially in a post-She-Ra world. She-Ra and the Princess of Power really, like, set the bar of how to write queer stories, especially in animation. But then, so, like, not Sam King, Dana Terrace, who's the creator of Owl House, like, she had to do some pushing, and she had to find the right executives to let her write this content. Well, then you go over to another show, which is DuckTales, the current run of DuckTales. They recently had an episode in season 3 where the character of Penumbra was on a date with Launchpad, and she told Launchpad, and she's a moonlander, so she's not even from Earth, and she was just like, I'm not interested in Earth now. And then that was it. And then Sam King later had to say that was all Disney would let us say to confirm that Penumbra is a lesbian. So you have this show like Owl House, which is entirely original characters, everything. But then when you start moving over into things within the Disney pantheon, DuckTales is a protected brand. Donald Duck is a protected copyright. You can't make that much controversy within something like DuckTales because it's sacred, and God forbid something in Mickey Mouse. The reason we have copyrights in the first place is because of Steamboat Willie. So, so God forbid. So then you start moving like to the other pillars. Like original content has a lot more freedom, but once you start moving within the Disney ranks, that's where it gets a little bit wishy-washy. But if you start looking at the other pillars like Marvel and Star Wars, they each have their own systems. They each have their own leaders. They pretty much like just throw their money into the Disney pool and take out what they need. But really, like Lucasfilm and Marvel and the all MCU stuff, like they act on their own. Marvel has a lot more leeway because it has a history of comics coming into it. And so they've done already a lot of this work in comics. So the comics have already established like who's gay, who's diverse, stuff like that. And so they don't have to do as much legwork introducing it because they already have this supporting material. But when you look at something like Star Wars, it's all just creating the content on the fly, it's just creating that. And so then it's having to produce its own support materials to support it. And that's why it's a little bit different, because it varies from each different pillar, because they all are on their own. So when I say like Disney, I should really be saying Lucasfilm, because they're the ones that are making offside. They're the ones that are making. I don't have shades or blinds or anything here, so now I'm blind. They don't have. What was I saying? Lucasfilm. They are the ones that decide what gets to be done and what doesn't get to be done. And so it actually, I should be saying Lucasfilms make those decisions. Like they're the ones to put in like the so-called box checking weird kiss and drops. That was so small that they didn't even cut it out the China cut. So like I do say Disney, but I really mean Lucasfilm, because it really does come down. And even within execs, when you start going back down that to those lower levels of like Owl House and DuckTales, Dana Terrace said she had to go to multiple executives before they would let her write Luz as bisexual. You know, she had to go to multiple executives. Right. And Sam King lost her fight. You know, she couldn't actually have Penny State call herself a lesbian and something like that, because it's a protected property.
Oh, just a second. Bucho is saying that there is static on your line.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm still hearing it too, but I didn't see anything in chat, so I was thinking, oh, okay, it must be coming clear for them, but they're hearing it too. So
let me.
I don't know if you can switch to microphone. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were, you were saying some great things there.
How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Yes. I think. Well, it sounds better to me. I hope it sounds better to them too.
Bucho, let them know if it sounds better here.
No, that sounds great.
I told you my snowball doesn't always like to play nice with Zoom, so.
Okay.
It's not a nice boy.
Oh, no, it sounds. Yeah, that sounds so much better. Yeah, that sounds good. Yes, static is gone, Bucho says. So yay.
Okay, so how about this? I'm gonna. Oh no! I just spilled this on my floor.
Okay, well, I'll just put it on.
Can we hold, please?
Yeah. We'll be. Oh, she'll be right back.
Oh God.
Okay, we'll let her deal with that, and you and I will talk for a second.
So I'll be right back.
No problem. So, hey, that's live for you. That's what happens, right? So, yeah, while she's gone, I want to bring attention to her website, which is, well, here, let me just, I'll just put it in the chat here. That way, if anybody's interested, the geekygirlexperience.com website has all of her content. She does a blog there, and then of course you can see the two podcasts that she does, which are amazing. And maybe I think I've mentioned it before, but Bucho and I did a Clone Wars podcast, and Hope and her podcast partner Chris had us on a couple of times, and it was amazing. So I highly recommend going there and checking those out. This might be something you're interested in. So geekygirlexperience.com. It's J Guys and Jedi is their Star Wars podcast, and then they also have Hope Makes Chris Watch Cartoons. And again, if you go to geekygirlexperience.com, you can see all of those. So yeah. Bucho said kind of on topic. He said he just watched Aladdin, the 1992 cartoon, yesterday, and they have a card that comes up with an apology for racist stereotypes at the start of that movie on Disney Plus.
Yeah, like there's been a lot of like definitely changes and stuff like that. I'm not one to talk much about that sort of thing, but I do suggest my friends over at Geeky Waffle have talked about that. But why though? My buddy Swara over at But Why Though is constantly talking about like MENA representation, which is Middle Eastern and North African representation. I'm clearly not that. Yeah. I'm very white. So, but I definitely like my buddies over at But Why Though and Geeky Waffle. They talk about that a lot. Because they're hosted by content creators of color. So
yeah, I guess it's one of those things that from my standpoint, I'm not in any of those groups, I've got
That doesn't
some,
mean that we shouldn't be talking about it.
yeah,
You know,
I just don't. Yeah, I don't. I go. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't have. I don't have. Like I mean, I've got some Middle Eastern in me, but I don't. I don't consider myself Middle Eastern, right? So I don't make comments on those things. But I love seeing all of these. Uh, I mean, the Eternals is coming out, and seeing. Oh my gosh, now I forgot his name. I blanked on his name. Ah, dang it! He was just in
Camille
that movie with.
Nanjiani?
Huh?
Camille Nanjiani?
Yes, yes. You've got him coming out. I'm excited about that. It what was the other the is it Shang-Chi? No.
Something like that. I am, but where you're behind on your Star Wars canon, I'm very behind on my Marvel news.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah.
I know
yeah,
what you're talking
but
about, though.
It's I guess I see that and I go, cool, awesome, new stuff, And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I feel like
that's
there a lot of companies are starting to. I mean, number one, they're starting to realize that not only is it responsible, but there is a market for it as well. And it's, I mean, I get that, but
yeah. But
it's kind
now
of
let me say, like, when I say this, like, yeah, like when they realize that they can make money on us, that's not entirely a bad thing.
right.
Because we should have more diversity. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's it is definitely like our responsibility as white content creators, because we have been in the position of power to be willing to give up our platform, at least some, and like let people talk on our platforms. To like give them that space, so where like we might not be as equipped, like we can talk about diversity and wanting diversity, and I certainly want diversity, but I feel truly equipped to only talk about like queer stuff,
Yeah.
because I am a queer woman. But that said, actually, I just realized I don't have to have this microphone right up in my face. That's where we need to be able to step aside and let like these other content creators of color like step up and talk about these things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be talking about it either. We just have to make sure, like, we have to do our research. We have to make sure we do that, because not speaking up is a form of privilege, and fear and evil thrive on apathy and us not talking. So even if it's just us saying like, hey, my friends over at Geeky Waffle, which are run by host of color and queer host, like they have talked about this because it's something that I don't feel equipped to, and like using our platforms to let people, and like, I was thinking about this recently with actually some Zelda theorists. I follow several Zelda theorists online, and when our capital was being attacked, I was surprised to see that the American theorists weren't saying anything, and it was this theorist overseas, like Commonwealth realm, like making statements, and I'm like, you're not even American. And I had been talking with another one of these creators, and I won't say who, last summer, and I was like, aren't you going to make a statement with all this Black Lives Matter stuff going on? And he was just like, well, I just want to, have fun and have a safe space. And I'm like, but what is that saying to your fans? And like, what is that saying? And it's, if anything, just like making a statement, even if it's just a tweet, let your fans know that they have a safe space with you. And at least like you're considering them, because not speaking up is a form of privilege.
It's funny because I felt like you were talking about me in a lot of ways. See, I guess it's the thing is, it's just like politics.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there is a place for escapism, and there's a place for both. There really is. There's a place to like acknowledge that stuff is happening and shit is hitting the fan.
Yeah. And
there's also a place to be like, let me talk about Gravity Falls and this like cute, like, talk about Stan Pines and Mabel and their adventures trying to save her pig. Like there's place for both.
Yeah, and Bucho just said, he said, we love all these stories about people who choose to do the right thing when it's also the hard thing. All the way back to Han Solo, every hero's journey is that exact story. Hope's kind of talking about refusing the call. So
I mean,
Yeah.
it's both. I mean, there's nothing wrong with who was it? One of my friends have like recently I've had some friends dedicate whole podcasts to just talking about stuff, and I've had people like make statements and then go on with the content that they were going to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends on the creator. But if anything, like, and I'd I was not calling you out. I'm sure because I just recently had this conversation with Chris.
Yeah.
We've had this rule forever in Two True Freaks of no politics. I talked to you guys when you guys were on our show. Like, we're not going to talk about politics, but we had this. We were talking recently, and I was just like getting just really frustrated because I'm like watching our Capitol being broken into, and I'm like, I'm frustrated. Like, I'm seeing like I want to talk about this stuff, but we've had this rule for over a decade. So we kind of made a compromise because, you know, we have two podcasts. One is J Guys and Jedi, and the other one is Hope Makes Chris Watch Cartoons. J Guys and Jedi is connected with Two True Freaks. And it's been connected to that for, you know, a decade, and that's where the rule comes from. But Hope Makes Chris Watch Cartoons, my show, it's not connected to Two True Freaks. It's my baby. And I was like, if we're going to talk, it's going to be on the show. And we've already kind of done that. Like when we did our episode for Irrational Treasure, yeah, it was Irrational Treasure. The plot of that episode is Dipper and Mabel find out that the town founder was a fraud and it was actually someone else. So they're being tracked down by the local police, who are these two cute, like adorable gay police officers. And like they are like the stereotypical, like, yeah, we're going to like run around and chase pigs in our cop cars. Like they're stereotype of police officers. But that episode just happened to hit differently when we were recording that the same week that George Floyd was murdered. And we're watching this episode where these cops are hunting these children to take them away. And it makes things hit differently. Because that's the thing, like nothing ages well. Nothing will ever age well, you know? Yeah. Even if something is currently aged well, give it another few decades or another century, like nothing will age well. So we have to be able to like look at things like in a vacuum. Like we'll have to look at, well, actually, no, I'm not even going to say that. Like we have to decide how we're going to look at things. Do we want to look at something of its time where we have things like what Bucha was saying with the Aladdin thing that comes up? Yeah. We have to be able to not only look at it of its time, but also look at it now and how it wasn't okay then. And, you know, something like Song of the South was never okay. And it was never okay when it was made. You know, you had people from the NAACP. Oh, yeah, that's right. You know, like writing Walt Disney saying, this is not okay. And Walt was just like, this is my movie because I'm Walt Disney and I'm an anti-Semite. Man, Walt Disney was a horrible person.
Well, and then, but it goes back to all kinds of little, even simple things. Like, for example, I was watching Jaws the other day. And, you know, because PS5 and all that kind of thing, I was all, let's watch a Blu-ray, right? 4K, ooh, this is going to be cool. And then watching, you know, the mayor of the town smoking in a hospital. And it's like...
Things change.
It's so weird. I think everything is almost like a product of its time. And it's almost a snapshot of what life is like right then when this thing was made. And to that end, I mean,
that's why something like Star Trek is now kind of getting dated because they used to have like comms, you know?
Right.
Like science fiction is the precursor to reality. And now we have this thanks to Star Trek, you know? Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of crazy when you think of it that way too, you know?
Yeah.
This
is because of Star Trek.
I don't know. It's sort of like where do you give them credit? I guess that's the thing. It's like Lucasfilm, for example. I have maintained, and I think this is one of those things that is a little bit controversial, at least just when it comes to just Star Wars fans in general, is they say, well, Lucasfilm is separate from Disney. Disney just lets them do whatever. And I'm like,
yes and no.
I don't think so. Because if you look at, to me, the best example of that is when you watch that, there's a StarWars.com interview with Bob Iger. And Bob Iger knows a lot about Star Wars. A lot more than your regular Joe knows. And I'm like, this guy is entrenched. And then if you apply the idea that Disney has been overseeing a lot, you can actually look at Kathleen Kennedy's reign as the head of as the head of Lucasfilm and go, maybe she's not as responsible for a lot of the issues that people are having, that it's coming from Bob Iger, because there was that article that came out that said that he was providing them notes for every episode of The Mandalorian season 1 and then watching it again to make sure that they made those changes.
There were some reports about the clashing pre-season 2 about how one side really wanted to start getting deeper into the lore while the other side like wanted to make it like very very commercial and very broad, which I will say, as their first kind of jump into live action, they needed it to be safe. And because this is the first time they've ever done this, I won't be surprised, like, as we get like the other 10 shows coming out, we're gonna get like more diversity and weird storytelling, and like we're gonna get that. But starting out, like, The Mandalorian had to be safe, you know. Like, at first I had a negative reaction to Luke Skywalker showing up, but then it hit me that like, well, both it was safe and bold. It hit me that it always had to be Luke, because when this is, as right now, this is Star Wars until we get more movies. This is the general audience Star Wars. So it always had to be Luke. So while it would have been bold to have someone like Cal Kestis, Ezra Bridger, even Quinlan Voss, who we know survived, like, that would have actually taken away from Grogu and Din's story, because the story is about them. But they rely on us as the audience knowing Luke Skywalker to tell that story. Right. But that's where it's also extra bold, because when Luke walks in that door, that's freaking Last Jedi Luke. That's the beginning of grumpy old Luke. And people are all just like, that's my hero. And I'm like, you bitches don't realize that's Last Jedi Luke. Because that's the flaw of Last Jedi. You know, like that. Right. Well, that's not the flaw of Last Jedi. That's the flaw of Luke in Last Jedi. Because the reason why he's grumpy Luke is that he repeated the sins of the original Jedi Order. And one of the cardinal sins of the original Jedi Order was family separations, separating children from their parents. And that's what he's doing. He walks in there and he takes a father from his son. And that's not okay. And repeating these sins is what leads him to falling and losing his temple. And I'm just like, oh, it's so beautiful that they just double down on that. Thank you.
Well, it's weird though, because it's like you said, it's a bridge.
Wrapped up in a little. It's wrapped up. It's hidden, but it's there.
But it serves those two purposes though, because it's there's the people that I would say the pro Last Jedi people and the anti Last Jedi people are looking at the same thing and going, yes. And so in a way, that's one of those things. Like when I said Star Wars is back, I felt that unity between the two sides of the fandom, because I saw these people that I'd been talking to, the whole Game Chasers guys. They hate The Last Jedi. They hate it with a passion. Sat me down and was like, I felt like I was on intervention or something.
I'm like sorry that they didn't like something that was original and different.
They hated it. They hated it. They hated The Last Jedi. But they sat me down and was trying to, okay, now why do you like The Last? And I'm like, I feel like this is weird, you know, but it was
because
funny.
It was original and it took the franchise in a different direction.
Yeah,
because it was a callback to animation that was already laying the groundwork for this anyway.
But see, they didn't see. That's the thing. There's people like you and me.
Make the guy mad about it.
But there's people like you and me that they take in a lot of stuff, the animation, the books, and things like that. These people only watch the movies, and the last thing they had of Star Wars was Shadows of the Empire, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, I know what you're saying, and I understand, because there is a lot of like general audience people who don't dive into any of this behind me, and that's, you know, and so Last Jedi was very different, but like when it comes to like, I'd rather have something be bold and daring and fail than safe and just be a regurgitation of everything we had before.
Did you feel that way with? I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, did you feel that way with Force Awakens, that it was super safe?
Yeah, well, okay, I have a really weird experience with Force Awakens, so that movie is always going to hit me differently. story-wise, I think it was necessary because it played with nostalgia, but also still introduced a lot of characters, and did a lot of setup, and that's where I feel like Last Jedi was like a step forward. Because Force Awakens is kind of like Luke and Mandalorian, like it always had to be a little bit nostalgic. I do feel like Force Awakens could have did more to like set up the First Order, and I wish they were different with, say, like the destruction of Hosnian Prime, which is where Resistance did a lot of legwork. But I have such a weird, I'm not a good person to ask that, because I have just such a different, I had a friend pass away like 2 days before like Force Awakens came out, and he was a huge Star Wars fan, and he was like so excited, and it was a very sudden passing. If you listen to our very first episode of J Guys and Jedi, like we addressed that because it just happened. So like I was in mourning when I saw Force Awakens, and we were even debating whether or not we should even see it, because Sean really wanted to see the movie, and he of course never got to see it. So like it was just such a unique experience, because like I went with a group of friends and they knew I was mourning, and like my friend Paige was letting me hold on to like her Captain Phasma doll that she had, and so I was holding on to it. So like to me, Force Awakens was a moment of healing, because it was kind of like the first step forward again to like kind of get back into fandom. So, I'm actually not like, it's very difficult for me to separate that experience from the movie itself, because whenever I watch that movie, I think of Sean.
See, and it's funny that you say that. Yeah. To me, that's the power of movies. It's why I've always been a big movie guy. Like, I'm going to talk about it again, but Guardians of the Galaxy was that movie, one of those movies for me. Super powerful movie, because it was the first movie that I saw after my 3 surgeries where I almost died, right? Mm-hmm. It was my first, I'm getting out and doing something, and I went, my wife was in Singapore, I think, at the time, for her job. So I was like, I'm gonna try this. I don't know. I mean, I've got the colostomy bag. I've got all the thing. I'm just gonna try and do something normal. And then what happens at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy? His mom's in the hospital, and I'm sitting there going, I'm already crying. And it was just a cathartic. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience, and I can never watch Guardians and not think about that. It's completely. Guardians could have, talk about the time that it was made. 20 years down the road, it could have something that's like, oh no, we would never do that now. But Guardians will always be special for me because of that.
Yeah.
It was so powerful. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but, actually though, it's very interesting. Like, I think that we do need to have like more space to allow each other to like stuff and not like stuff. Yeah. I always think of, we are actually so lucky as Star Wars fans to have so much content, like so much. And I always think about like when I used to be part of the Once Upon a Time fandom. It was, a TV show, ABC and stuff like that. And it had a spinoff show, and that was cool. But like, the main thing was the television show. And about like season 4-ish, they were going to release a book, and we all lost our fucking minds because we were like, we're gonna get a book, we're gonna get content not in the television show, oh my god. And we were like theorizing all about a single book, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 behind me. Oh, yeah. Like, so when you have this like massive franchise like Star Wars, there's going to be layers of fans. You're going to have your very casual fans. You're going to have your deep diving fans. And when you have books and comics and animated shows and live action shows and movies and audio dramas, we have 2 audio dramas now. Like, when you have this much, there's going to be stuff that you're not going to like, Like, let me use my Blue Husbando as an example. Love 2017 Thrawn. We were just talking about how I love Thrawn alliances. Thrawn treason is a hot piece of garbage. Should have like it serves no purpose. It has like it's not. It just serves no purpose other than like, well, Thrawn was gone for between 2 episodes of Rebels. Let's talk about where he was gone to. Like, it does. It's a hot piece of garbage. I'm not a fan. But I love Chaos Rising. I'm almost done with Chaos Rising, which is over there. So like there are gonna be things that we don't like, but we need to be able to allow people to not like stuff. It's one thing to have like, I was probably a little bit mean when I was like, well, they can die mad about it, but we're talking. But like, yeah, it's just bullshitting because like people are allowed to not like The Last Jedi, and people are allowed to like it, but like the anger at the two, like at the groups and stuff like that, like there's a lot of anger instead of just having like thoughtful conversations. Like I feel this way about Tross. Like I do not like Tross. I think it's a poorly made movie. I think it's a wasted opportunity. It's a piece of hot garbage. But I have friends who do like Tross, and I'm not gonna be mad at them because they liked it. I might have a conversation with them, just be like, tell me your point of view and what you like about it, and have them hear me out. But like when we have this franchise that's so huge, there are going to be things we don't like about it, and nothing's perfect. And that's a very important thing. There is no such thing as a perfect piece of media. There will always be some kind of criticism. And there's been a lot of like problems with not letting people criticize things. And it's difficult on social media because with something like Twitter, you only have so many characters. Like, let's take Frog Lady, for example. The big Frog Lady stuff that was happening where Disney protected their puppet before their actors of color, which is a problem of its own. But like people were talking about actual very valid concerns about Frog Lady. And at no point were they saying that they hated the episode. They were like, no, we like this episode. We're just pointing out this like one like kind of writing thing that was weird. And it got so much hate that there were variety articles about it saying that people were canceling Baby Yoda when it was mostly women just saying like, hey, the writing set up that these eggs are very important to her. And then that she, this is very important. And it invoked a lot of people's like images, like people struggling with infertility. Women were talking about how they had been struggling with infertility, and these were these issues. So pretty much they were just saying like the writing set up that these eggs are important to her, and then we have Baby Yoda eating them. And all they were saying was, this is some wonky writing that's not great, but we love the episode. And this hate came down on a very valid criticism. And I agree. I felt the same way. I was like, why is he eating this thing that's obviously really important to it? Which, goes into the structure of she's an alien. And aliens are treated differently in Star Wars because for the longest time they were coded as the people of color. But now as we're starting to get in people of color actors, these aliens are now becoming almost like a subgroup, which is why I think that we always need more aliens in Star Wars because they have a very special story of their own, as well as actors of colors, as well as white actors, because right now they're in that order. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. And it's the way that it was played as a joke. Was horrifying. That was the weird part about it. And it's like, I am not a woman.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there going, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is not it's weird.
Like the first moment it happened where like Mando was like, don't do that. Like that was funny, but the way that they kept hitting on it. And it's just a thing just saying like this is some weird writing, especially when it's going against what was established that these are very important to this sentient character with thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and a past and a future. And that's all that these people were saying was just like, this is a weird thing, but we love the episode. And it just got heightened to people like they're canceling Baby Yoda, and some of that is the people over at the TFM, but that's a whole different thing of its own.
Now let me by the way, what you were talking about, the subjectivity of movies and allowing people to like and or dislike movies. Bucho said, this is why I forgive Robbie for being wrong about Rogue One.
You are wrong about Rogue One.
It's just not my favorite.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
It's just not, it's like, to me...
I actually want to hear why it's not your favorite, because that actually is my favorite Star Wars movie.
See, and I know this. Yeah. And I think my biggest problem with the movie is that for me, the writing of the characters, they don't hit for me. And I don't feel for Jen until it just feels weird because
it's because Bodhi Rook is the main character of the movie, but they actually promoted her to be the main character. With the plot's actually not about her. The plot is actually about Bodhi Rook, and that's what's crazy about it.
Yeah,
she's the emotional thread. She that's actually where I like Jen, because she has an entire like mental health journey in a movie. She goes through multiple traumas, falls down, picks herself back up, dusts herself off. She mourns. She's allowed to mourn, allowed to cry, allowed to process her emotions, and then picks herself back up and just goes and saves the universe. You know, she has an entire mental health journey, but she's not the main character of the movie. The main character is Bodhi Rook.
that actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Because if Bodhi doesn't defect, there is no movie. The entire reason Cassian needs Jen is to find Bodhi, because he needs to get to Bodhi because he's with Saw Gerrera. So they have to go get Bodhi. And so then Bodhi is like, actually, let's go get Galen. Who leads them to Galen? It's Bodhi. He's telling Cassian where to fly on Iridu and like how to stay below that. You know, who did they take to the meeting with the rebel leaders? Bodhi. He's the one standing beside Jen, giving them the information about the Death Star. Who makes the Rogue One name? Bodhi. Who gets them onto Scarif? Bodhi. Who transfers the message? Sends the message? Bodhi. But you know what? Riz Ahmed is not on the fucking box. His name's not on that box. And he's also historic. And I'm like sitting here going, the whole movie's about Bodhi Rook and trying to find him and get him to the rebels. And it's not promoted that way. And he's the one that's left out of merchandise. He's the one that's left out like, this is a special pop figure that came out after everybody else, because of course. And it drives me mad because he's the main character of the movie.
I think but what you're saying there is my problem with the movie, you know?
Yeah,
it's like that.
I have to do the emotional hard work for people.
Yeah, but I mean, see, to me, the emotions don't hit very hard because I haven't gotten enough time with Jin to care when she finds the message from her dad.
So here's the thing. And I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate. When it comes to something like A New Hope, when that first came out and that was the Star Wars, why does that ring differently than something like Rogue One? If you just look at just Star Wars in a vacuum, like just A New Hope by itself, why do people connect with that and not others? And so this is hypothetical
honestly,
question.
And this is I'm Star Wars never was like that for me, and I'm talking about the original Star Wars, and I think it's because my first Star Wars was that I remember. It's like when I came online was Empire Strikes Back.
Ah, yeah.
So I was already in the story. So going back and watching A New Hope, I never understood like when people talk about the binary sunset. You know, the binary sunset is when they connect with Luke because they can see the I just want something more. I want to be something bigger and all that. They connect with that. I never connected with Luke on that level. I connected with him through Yoda. That's why Luke was always my favorite character through the series, is because I loved Yoda and I loved all the teachings and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like that's what, to me, that's why a lot of people connect with Luke versus Jin, is because they can see themselves in that plight, I guess, at the beginning.
Yeah. And they're very different kinds of movies too.
Yeah.
Genre speaking. Like, that's actually why I never connected with the original trilogy. Hot take of the show. You ready, everybody? Hot take. Original trilogy is my least favorite part of Star Wars, except for Tross. Tross is the only thing that's lower. And a lot of it is that I could never see myself in the original trilogy. I know it's a hot take. I know, I'm aware of it. But no. And that's not saying that it's bad. I appreciate them as movies and as acting and writing and stuff like that. It's just I've never connected with them because they're very binary, black and white storytelling. We know who the good guys are. It's Luke, Han, and Leia. We know who the bad guys are. It's Black Metal Daddy. And he is going to... and Tarkin.
I love your names, by the way.
I have an entire mommy and daddy list. It's fine, but it's Farkin and Black Metal Daddy. They're the bad guys, and it's, you know, it's very black and white storytelling, which is just I like messy Star Wars. You know, that's what I like about Rogue One.
Dense.
We have Yeah, yeah, we have a character like Cassian. The very first, he's supposed to be the hero, and what does he do in his opening scene? He murders a man. I love messy Star Wars. Give it to me, because
Yeah.
and because it's real. Like, I didn't connect with Star Wars. Like, I'd seen the original trilogy. In fact, my first movie was Phantom Menace. Like, I'm a total prequel kid, because that was my first Star Wars movie, was Phantom Menace. So I actually really like the prequel era. It's one of my favorites. But the first time I connected with Star Wars was this girl right here, Ahsoka Tano. Yeah. Because she was real to me. I had issues with Leia and Padme because they were so perfect. They always got stuff right. They always were like in charge. They were always leaders. And I didn't see myself in that because I felt that I was flawed. And then you have Ahsoka come in and she's flawed. She's making mistakes. She gets her men killed. She just makes mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. And she was so real because she had flaws. And that's something I like about like Rogue One. We have that beautiful line where Saul's like looks at Jen and goes, how do you feel about seeing the Imperial flags flying? And she goes, that's not a problem if you don't look up. Such a good line, and the whole movie is about that. And it's so, these characters feel real. Bodhi is scared the entire movie and working with strangers and with people who probably see him as an Imperial, and he has to trust them. He has to overcome his fear. You have Cassian, who has done unspeakable crimes. You have these amazing heroes like Luke and Han and Leia, and he's the dirty floorman, like who like gets dirty for them, so they can be the poster boys while he's the one doing their dirty work. You have characters like Saw Gerrera, who is a terrorist. He's on the hero side, but he's a terrorist to the point where Mon Mothma and the rebels don't even want to work with him because he's hurting their image of the rebellion. He doesn't care about civilians. That's why there's whole Clone Wars and Rebels arcs about Saw Gerrera, saying that he doesn't fight the way they do. He fights dirty. He uses civilians. He doesn't care. He doesn't show mercy. That's actually why Saw Gerrera is why Agent Callus, a villain, was pushed the way he was, because Saw Gerrera didn't play by the rules of war, and he came in and wiped out his platoon and murdered them mercifully, which pushed Callus to be in the Empire more. I love messy Star Wars, Rob. Give it to me.
You just hit on something that is really, really interesting.
So messy. That's why I love Bill Burr in Mandalorian.
Oh.
That episode, yeah, that's messy Star Wars. That's me. That's my jam. I love it.
But you hit on something really, really interesting. That the messier the Star Wars, the less people... So would you consider The Mandalorian closer to original trilogy in feel and scope? Because here, let me finish my thought here.
Finish your thought.
And you tell me if I'm onto something. Because I love what you said, is that you love messy Star Wars. Prequels were your jam. And would you say that the prequels are your favorite?
That's probably my favorite era. Yeah. Rebels, I also like the pre-Rebels era, but like mostly because, it showed that the Jedi were a cult. The Jedi were flawed cult leaders who stole children away from their parents and raised them. I love that. They're the heroes and they're cults.
It makes me wonder, though, if the original trilogy, people that were in love with the original trilogy, in a lot of ways, those are the people that have a problem with The Last Jedi, because making Luke have that journey is messy. It's not as simple as the original trilogy. And
I love Trauma Luke. Trauma Luke's my favorite.
See, I love it too, because but for me, I saw my journey in Luke. Seriously, I was in a bad spot when I went through all my surgery stuff. Mm-hmm. I was rejoining society, So for me, it was, I could see, I drew parallels to that, and I really connected with that. And Luke was always my favorite character in the original trilogy. Yeah. So it was like, oh my God, my hero is going through the same things I am. and it was like, oh, it was so therapeutic and all that stuff. Canto Bite is a messy part of the.
It's a mess. It's a Rebels episode.
I could, yeah,
It's an episode of Rebels in the middle of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but I could totally look past it because I loved the Luke stuff so much. But I just find that really, really interesting that maybe there's a connection there. Because it's so messy, that's why the original trilogy folks have such a problem with the sequel trilogy, is because the sequel trilogy does try, in a lot of ways, Tross notwithstanding, tries in a lot of ways to call back to some of the other stories in all of Star Wars.
I think it's also like what we put on characters too. To use a different example, Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. I struggled with that actually, because Ahsoka means so much. There's a reason I keep her close to my heart with my I keep her close to my heart for a reason. Like, she saved my life. You know, when I was losing my house to foreclosure, I would watch Clone Wars episodes. When I was struggling with like depression and stuff, I would watch Clone Wars episodes. She has always been the shining beacon to me. And I had a lot of like concerns about her coming to The Mandalorian and coming into live action. And I was nervous about that. And a lot of it had to do with the actress. For one, I felt like, you know, they never could have used Ashley Eckstein because Ahsoka has been coded as a person of color for pretty much since her conception. She's coded as being a person of color, but I was at least hoping they would have like Ashley voice her while an actress played her. Because Ashley is so, and when I heard that they didn't even approach Ashley at all, I felt that did her dirty. And I also still have issues with Rosario Dawson and the ongoing charges against her. You know, even if she's completely clear, that's something that's always going to be over Rosario's head. That's always going to be over that version of that character. And it's always going to be a cloud. And I always felt that they should have like went a different direction. But, you know, contracts will be contracts, and the big mouse can never be right. So I had a lot of concerns coming into that episode. And I came in that episode with baggage and wanting to see Ahsoka how she was in Rebels, wanting to see Ahsoka how she was in Clone Wars. But the difference is that I brought that baggage into it and I ruined the experience for myself. I actually had to sit with that episode and I ruined the experience of seeing live action Ahsoka for the first time for myself, because I brought that in there and I brought my established baggage and my established views and thoughts on the character. Because up to that point, we had only seen Ahsoka from a certain point of view. You know, she is the main character. There are three main characters of Clone Wars. It's Rex, Ahsoka, and Anakin. Everybody else is around them supporting their story. And then when we get into Rebels, we're still seeing her from the point of view of Jedi. You know, we're seeing her through Ezra's eyes, who is a Jedi looking up to this other Force user. What I find very interesting about The Mandalorian is it's a very, very limited, almost first-person point of view. We only, with the exception of a few scenes here and there, we only know what Din sees. So we're actually seeing Ahsoka through Din's eyes, and all she is this space wizard that's supposed to take his son. So we're not seeing her in a light that's the same way as we see her in Clone Wars and Rebels, which is a different point of view. So when we get to say something like Luke, you know, the original trilogy is about Luke. You know, it is his point of view of how he became a hero. But when we're seeing him in The Last Jedi, we're seeing him through Rey's point of view, which is a different lens that we're not used to seeing Luke in. And he's gone through some shit. I love trauma Luke, but we're not, for the first time, really with Luke on screen, we're seeing him. And that's why seeing him in The Mandalorian is, again, through Din's view. And that's, you know, of course, a lot of the audience is doing the weight of that. You know, they're the ones that are going just like, it's Luke Skywalker, I forget, we know all about him. But Din's like, that's actually one of my favorite things. Din gave his child to a stranger. He didn't even ask Luke's name. Nobody else in the room knows who Luke Skywalker is. And he's just like, oh, I guess you have a lightsaber. Here's my child. And I was just like, at least ask his name, Din. Because like that was like the one part that took me out of the episode, because he could have been just like, Who are you? And he could have been like, I'm Luke Skywalker. And Bo-Katan could have been like, oh, Ahsoka used to talk about someone named Skywalker. Yeah. And at least like Din knows Ahsoka. But I had to laugh because Din Djarin is a himbo. He's a big old himbo, which is a male bimbo. He's a himbo with a heart of gold, and he just gave his son to some stranger that just walked in the door.
There's so many things that I never really thought about until, in fact, I think you've helped. In fact, J Guys and Jedi have helped, but Bujo has helped as well. I look at things from a different point of view. One of the things that it's kind of like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, or just things like that. It's like you have to realize no one in the room knows who Luke Skywalker is.
No one in the room knows who Luke Skywalker is. We know the audience knows. The audience is doing the work of the writers.
Right, and it's one of those things that it's
and it doesn't ruin that moment for me because the thing is like that moment is about Din and Grogu. So like it doesn't ruin that moment with me, but like I did have a logic thing of like, is he gonna ask his name? You're giving your son to a stranger.
Yeah. It's
stranger danger, himbo.
But it's like it's and I don't remember where this came from.
Here's falling down.
This idea. No, it's okay. I mean, yeah.
Oh, this is cutting off the moment. Like this, like I've actually been struggling with like body dysphoria this last year because Hope has short, cute, queer hairstyles, and this is a hairstyle that's grown out for 2 years because Hope couldn't upkeep it. And I've actually debated just like shaving it off with clippers and starting short all over again.
Wow.
I hate this. This is horrible. And I actually thought about live streaming it, like giving myself a quarantine undercut and taking it all off. So
hey,
it's fine.
Content.
Hey, content. Yeah.
But no, what I was saying was, I don't remember where this idea came from, but it's something I love. And it's when you're writing a character, nothing informs the audience about a character more than having another character talk about that character. Mm-hmm. Because seeing how other characters view this character is more valuable than just saying, hey, this character is this. Mm-hmm. And I like that because it makes it more real, because this character can see that character. Like, for example, Darth Vader sees Luke as one thing, Han sees Luke as one thing, Leia sees Luke as one thing, and all of those different points of view inform who Luke is.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I love that. And it's something I never really consciously thought about. And I don't, like I said, I don't remember who said it, but it was one of those things just like, it's awesome. And to me, the idea that no one in the room knows who Luke is really kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But at the same time though, it almost makes him look otherworldly, like magical. And that's kind of beautiful, especially the way Grogu is, so good.
Which is actually kind of the thing about the sequel trilogy. It helps set that up because you have that first scene where Rey and Finn meet Han, and they're like, Han Solo from the stories, you did this, and like, and my friend Emma had recently talked about the roles of each trilogy and what these roles mean, and so. I'm gonna butcher this, but she said it so well. Oh my god. Look at Pink Milk in case I get this wrong, because she said this on Pink Milk and she does their shows on Friday nights and stuff like that. The prequel era is about establishing roles, where it's establishing the roles of what the Jedi are and what the heroes are and who the bad guys are. The original trilogy is about stepping into those roles. So you have like Luke stepping into the pre-established role of the Jedi. You have Han stepping into like the established role of the hero. You have Leia stepping into those. And then the sequel trilogy is about transcending roles and moving past that. So, you have Rey that's going above and beyond what the Jedi did. You have Finn stepping above his role as a stormtrooper and becoming something greater. You have Poe stepping above being just a rebel pilot and becoming a leader. And a part of that means that they're going to have to be stepping above and beyond the roles that Luke, Han, and Leia did, which is part of that is transcending and breaking those roles and what those roles mean.
I like that.
Emma, I hope I did you proud because I'm remembering this from like a month and a half ago.
I like that. I like that a lot because it makes a lot of sense, because that's, again, it's
I think that's also where it had a lot of people's hurt, because like you said, Luke, Han, and Leia are people's heroes.
Right.
And seeing somebody taking up those roles and
then deconstructing them in a way.
And deconstructing them and breaking them apart and turning them into something else, like that hurts. It's hard. Change is always hard. Change is always scary, even if it's with fictional space wizards. It's different. That's why people had like a really bad reaction to the Jedi of the prequel era. All we had known before them is that the Jedi were these great space wizard warriors. And then we get the prequel era and they're like entrenched in politics. They're corrupt. They're a cult, which is not went against how people thought of them. But now, like, we wouldn't have things like Clone Wars without it, and that's a beloved series. So like people has to sit with that change. And that's why I think it's really interesting to go back to a question that you asked a while ago about how I felt about The Mandalorian being either original trilogy or sequel trilogy, or I forgot how you worded it.
Yeah, it was just, yeah.
Oh, as a bridge. We were talking about bridges. That's why I don't think anybody other than Dave Filoni should be in this role, because he's already established that's something he can do. He made the bridge of the prequel era. He made the bridge of Rebels. And I know I could talk forever about Resistance and why it's an underrated show and people are just mean. He did that with Resistance, and now he's doing it with The Mandalorian. If anybody can make people like the sequel trilogy, it's Dave Filoni.
I don't know about Rise of Skywalker though.
Oh, it's a piece of hot garbage, but that wasn't Dave Filoni. That was J.J. Abrams being a racist, homophobic piece of shit.
Yeah, but I don't see. That's the weird thing is I don't think a lot of, as much as I don't like that movie, I honestly feel that he was doing the best that he could with what he had. And I think the writer has more. Is that there's something about that?
It's both of them.
I don't know if you've seen. Did you watch all the special features or whatever?
I didn't. But I was reading about the different approach of Ryan and JJ and how they were approaching. Ryan met with the story group every week of filming The Last Jedi to make sure he wasn't stepping on other people's established canon within books and stuff. And JJ didn't do that. In fact, Daisy didn't know her parentage until halfway into filming because they kept changing it on her.
Right.
So.
Well, I think that's Reddit, right?
Huh? What?
Like I feel like that's why the director that was fired before
Terrio? No, it wasn't Terrio.
Yeah, that's the new writer, but the Jurassic World guy, he directed that. I
don't remember. I'm bad with directors. It's not my strong suit.
No, I know, but
I know what you're talking about.
I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, that guy, and then I'm like, I used to be really good at pulling those names. Not anymore.
I've never been really good at that.
But those, if you read, the original script for 9, it's crazy how much it's a continuation of Last Jedi, not a let's break everything apart and try to make something where people will love it.
Yeah, and I felt like where you were saying about like how much Disney might have a hand, I felt like that was Disney's hand in it because there was such a visceral reaction from. I'm about to say core fans, but I mean core fans as like traditional cis-het white male fans. Like that's who Disney had been placing their importance on, not realizing that Last Jedi was really resonating with like female fans, queer fans, people of color fans, and stuff like that. So they went back and they listened to who they saw as core fans. And I have nothing to support this. This is just my speculation of it and my take of it. And so they had to spend the entire first part of the movie breaking apart The Last Jedi to then have the second half of the movie to be like, all right, now let's tell the story.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel natural. Like,
yeah,
to me, like the biggest Rise of Skywalker doesn't feel like it really starts hitting its stride until over halfway in the movie, which is right about the time that Rey and Kylo are fighting on the Death Star. And from there on out, it feels like the movie's actually hitting its stride of what the story was wanting to tell. But I feel like so much of the first half is just like breaking apart of the analogy I had was that JJ laid the foundation for Force Awakens, and then Ryan started building a house on that foundation. And then when it came to Trust, JJ didn't like the house. He had to knock it down and rebuild the different house. And that's how it feels to me. That's just my take. I'm happy to be wrong.
Well,
Absolutely happy to be wrong.
See, I mean, I honestly don't feel like, and this is, again, another one of those, I don't have any proof, I don't have any whatever, but I honestly feel like everybody loved at Lucasfilm, loved Last Jedi.
Yeah,
they loved it so much. They loved it so much that Kathleen Kennedy said, "Hey, Ryan, do you want to do your own trilogy before the movie comes out?"
I hope that's a High Republic trilogy. I hope him or Taika get the High Republic. Huh?
I think Ryan is done, and I
don't think so.
I mean, look, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't feel like he's gonna want to put himself through that again. As strong as he is, I think with his, I mean, because he's really good at not taking that stuff. Because I mean, he lots of criticism, of course. I just don't think he's gonna do it. I don't know.
But who hasn't taken? I mean, Taika just made a joke about that. You know, Taika just released a joke when they were doing the Disney Investor Day when they were releasing everything.
Yeah.
He
I
wrote
can't
that
wait
joke.
to ruin it. Or
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, because George Lucas went through it. Dave Filoni went to Ashley Eckstein before Clone Wars ever came out and said, "People will hate your character." Like, they're aware of this. It's just part of being a content creator.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to hate it. And especially when you have such a passionate fan base. So it's not just Ryan. I mean, like, JJ went through this too. Right. You know? And he went through it with Force Awakens. Like, I think they all did. Ron Howard has. Bryce Dallas Howard has. I mean, like, and she has done my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian.
What's his... Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on a second.
Just a question. What's chat saying?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
To the chat. I can't see you,
Colin
chat.
Trevorrow is his name. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
It was driving me nuts. I had to. I'm one of those people. I have to know. I had to go look it up. Colin Trevorrow.
I feel like Solo went through that too. I mean,
oh yeah,
you can tell where corporation got their hands on Solo, which sucks because there's a lot of really cool things. And I personally, I think Solo would have worked better as a Disney Plus show. Mm-hmm. Because there are 3 very distinct things going on. You have,
which is why I'm kind of excited about the Lando series.
So what's interesting about Solo is the actor that plays Han was like slated and contracted for I think 3 movies. But like Solo should have always been a television show. And that's now, I will say that's a me thing. I think Star Wars works better in a television format than a movie format, but that's just a personal thing because I prefer television over movies. That's just me. But like, what was I saying? I was saying words.
About Lando?
Yes, about Lando. Like, I'm very excited about the Lando series because I hope we get a continuation of that. Like, I want to see Kara. I want to see Crimson Dawn. I ship Kara and Maul so hard, Robbie. I ship them so hard. Maul and Kara need a kiss. I need it. No, but I think Kara's a very interesting character.
Yeah, me too.
But you can tell where like the corporations like kind of, you can tell that it went through several hands. You can tell that the script went through several hands. You can just tell, like, it's easy to tell. It would have been interesting to see what they did if it was allowed to be like more kooky and wacky and have a little bit more of that slapstick, because I think it would have then set the groundwork of something like Resistance, where there is very different storytelling in Resistance, where it is a little bit more slapstick, which is something we don't normally get in Star Wars, which is a turnoff for some people. And people pay attention to that other than the deep, rich storytelling about how the wars of Star Wars affect everyday people and inflict trauma on them.
Well, that's, I think it's really interesting that Marvel has the ability to almost do a different genre movie for every time. You know, like we're going to do our 70s political thriller with Winter Soldier, and then we're going to do our goofy comedy Ant-Man, right? And then we're going to do this and that. Yeah. WandaVision is something completely different. And
why can't Star Wars do that?
Yeah, Star Wars, but see, that's the thing. I feel like they were testing the waters, and they got the feedback that no, we want Star Wars in this little box. And I feel like Mandalorian is, in many ways, is the answer to that. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with these next series.
I agree. I actually do. Yeah. No, okay. Yeah, I'm processing what you're saying now. Yeah, I think a lot of the flaw was the speed that they were coming out with Star Wars, because like what the MCU was like, it's like what, over a decade, and they tried to cram out what, we got 3 movies and 5 movies in 5-6 years. That's a lot. It's just a lot. I think if they had slowed down, they could have had that format of having like a weird thing. But also when they started this, we didn't have Disney Plus, and I think Disney Plus is going to be very interesting, because now Star Wars is going to be constantly on television, because Mandalorian already had the groundwork laid down for it, and it's called Clone Wars: Rebels and Resistance. You know, they've the wonderful ladies over at Sky Talkers podcast have a saying, which is, "Look to animation for the future of Star Wars." And it's true. Like, they've already laid down like how to tell stories on television, what kind of characters work, what kind of characters don't work. I love Clone Wars. The first 3 seasons is trial and error. You know, it's either working really well or it's not. And it's not really until about season 3 where Clone Wars really starts hitting its stride, because it's just experimenting. You know, Clone Wars had to walk so Rebels could run, and to tell this comprehensive story about with new characters, relatively new characters. You know, people don't know who these characters are going into Rebels. And then we get in Resistance, which is just in a new era, a new time period. Resistance, I love Star Wars Resistance. And it just fell in this weird
style.
Huh?
I love the animation style. It reminds me of Breath of the Wild.
And it felt, it really, really does. But it fell in this weird time where they were writing Resistance before Last Jedi, and they had to finish the series before TROS was even written. Right. So it just fell into this weird thing, but it actually has a completely different function of it. What was I saying before that? Crap.
I don't know. We've been all over the place.
Yeah. But we were talking about the differences of but to Star Wars on television. But so like the groundwork has already been laid down about how to do it. But when we were making these movies and trying to do like, you know, war thrillers with Rogue One and heist thrillers with Solo, we hadn't had this movie, like this thing called Disney Plus, which is now we're getting all sorts of television on screens, so they can have different kinds of shows. They can have something like Bad Batch, which I do think is going to be more resistant storytelling than Clone Wars storytelling, because those are 2 different functioning shows.
Right.
And I'll be more than happy to talk about that. But and then you have something like what sounds like Ahsoka, which is going to be your weird Force mystical show. You're going to have something like Visions, that's going to be like the anime exploration experimental show. But then you're going to get some more. About that. I hope it's the Animatrix of Star Wars.
Yep,
I want it to be the Animatrix of Star Wars. Give me Hayao Miyazaki Star Wars, please. Star Wars and anime were made for each other. They were made for each other.
If you see that, if you've ever seen that TIE Fighter video on YouTube, you know that where it's.
Everyone has told me about it.
Huh?
Everyone has told me about it.
Oh, it's just like a little short, you know.
Yeah, like I know. I haven't seen it. So I know.
But yeah, it reminds me of like almost like a mixture of Voltron style, Akira style animation. If you could mix those together and then put it in Star Wars, because it's like it's really, really high quality. It's not your typical still animation with a moving background.
I think we're kind of getting a touch of that with like what we're seeing out of Titmouse Studios with Galaxy of Adventures, where they've been reimagining like parts of the original trilogy in animation. Those are so good. And I would love to see an entire Titmouse series. But like, you know, animation, like anime and Star Wars were made for each other. Like I'm just imagining all the different like styles of anime that could be done in that movie. But, you know, now when we first started this whole like this new canon stuff, we didn't have the time that the MCU had. So the MCU has had time to experiment. You know, they had their first kind of origin superhero movies where it was just straight up origins. We got Iron Man's origin, Hulk, Thor, blah, blah, blah. Then we got the Avengers movie. And after that, then they could start experimenting. They could start having that like 70s political thriller. They could have that like slapsticky Ant-Man comedy. But I think Star Wars just moved too fast, where they didn't have the time to establish that, because they kind of eased them into that, you know, like they eased MCU fans like one movie at a time, and they started going a little bit further. But Star Wars doesn't have, for one, as I was saying earlier, they have to create their own mythos, so they don't have the history of the comics. So, you know, like if you have an Iron Man movie, you know, you have something like when was Iron Man made? Like 60s was Iron Man 63?
I'm not sure, honestly.
I think he was 60s. I should know this. I used to manage a comic book store, but that was never my strong suit. Was remembering dates. You know, you have, you know, decades of comics to support it. You know, Star Wars doesn't have that. So I think they just started moving too fast, trying to do these genre films, which work. They clearly work, but they just were moving so fast. And there's also just kind of the corporate structure of where I do think Disney got their little fingers into it. Because, sorry, Kathleen Kennedy has a track record. You know, she has worked on things like Indiana Jones. She was the producer of Indiana Jones. You know, like she has this track record of decades in the movies. So I think there's actually like a little bit of like the Bob Iger, as you were saying, that got his little corporate little fingers into it.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, look, Star Wars has been a little up and down, but I think overall
it's been up and down. I mean, MCU has been up and down.
Yeah, but I feel like Star Wars is in a really good place moving forward. I feel like I feel there's a confidence now that was missing at the beginning. And even through Rise of Skywalker, it was like, we don't really know. But now it feels like we are hitting the ground running. We're doing games, we're doing TV shows, we're doing movies. Holy crap, it's going to be awesome.
That's where I'm excited about High Republic. Like, because it's just something new to play with, you know?
I can't, like, I need to read it.
It's really great. And the comics get you. I would say read Light of the Jedi before the comic, because the comic kind of starts at towards the end of the book. This sets up the world and the characters and everything and the ensemble pieces. This is an ensemble book. It's not about one single person. It's about a bunch of different people, and it sets it up. So definitely start with Light of the Jedi. I'm also a total slut for Charles Soule. Like, he wrote the Darth Vader. He wrote the Darth Vader run. His run of Vader is one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars ever written.
He's really good.
It's about how Anakin becomes Vader psychologically and explores that. And I love it. And Lord Momin is one of my favorites. My Grande boyfriend got his backstory. My Grand Inquisitor boyfriend, I love him. It's his backstory. I call it Star Wars Rebels for the Dark Side because it has that background of it. With the Inquisitorius and stuff. Like, I am a slut for Charles Soule.
Have you just the other day, Star Wars Explained did an interview with just.
I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, I know.
It's really good though. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
Let me. I haven't been paying attention to chat as nearly as much as I should have been.
Oh yeah, hit me.
So, but Bucho. I mean, this is like all Bucho. It's just Bucho. But he was like, he said, Jin didn't really connect with me the first time. This is how long ago. Jin didn't really connect with me the first time either, but after the scene with the hologram, she did. So, and she has every other time I've rewatched.
You know, I feel that too, because actually, if you listen to our Rogue One commentary, I was very critical of Jen. It took me a few years of sitting with Jen and going through like my own like mental health journeys before I started connecting with her as well. And I think that's the beauty of, you know, media. You know, the longer we sit stuff, we see things differently. It's like, you know, 20 years later, people love the Phantom Menace. But yeah, I feel that. Like, if you listen to Jagas and Jedi, our very, very, very first, we did 2 commentaries. We did our first initial reaction to the movie, and then we did our commentary. And in both, I was very critical of Jen. But she's definitely really grown on me over the years. And same thing with Kira. I did not respond to Kira very positively. And the more I sat on her, I was like, she is amazing.
Yeah, and Bucho even said, I think a big part of the reason why many don't connect with Jen is that the first 15 minutes of Rogue One is super janky in construction. And it's pretty clear that, you know, that it's jury-rigged at that point. Like, there's so many different people, you know, going, we should do this. Lunasec is now following.
Giving the backstory, yeah.
Thank
you. Exposition is always the most difficult part. To me, of storytelling, because you want to build the world and you want to introduce these characters, but you don't want it to be a plot dump.
Yeah.
Which is probably the biggest flaw of this book, is the first third is just exposition.
I will tell you though, that first chapter sucked me right in.
Whoo, yeah,
It's
I cried.
good. It is really good. I can't wait. And
It's
then let's
it's
see.
I will say this is brutal. I was joking with my friend that Light of the Jedi is like almost Game of Thrones of Star Wars. Like it is very adult. The only we were joking. I was saying that it's like the HBO of Star Wars, but it's just the HB. It doesn't have the final O. It's missing like the nudity and it's missing like the gore. But this is a brutal book. People die like constantly. It's brutal.
I'm down. I'm down.
I was shooketh. Shooketh.
And Lunasec, I'm not sure if they came for, from your side, but thank you for that follow again. Thank you. But also, Bucho said that I see Ahsoka being flawed as similar to Luke. Luke's very flawed throughout A New Hope and Empire, constantly being beat up and making bad decisions and losing over and over and over. I agree with that. I just feel like Ahsoka. Look, I gotta be honest. I hated Ahsoka at the beginning. I was like, gosh, she's so annoying. I'm like,
I felt the same with Ezra. Ezra had to grow on me.
Yeah, but I love both of them now. And Ahsoka
I still struggle with Kaz. I mean, Kaz is the unique one of the three because he has a very unique character flaw of privilege.
Yeah.
He's a rich boy coming down into the normal society, and his character flaw is not knowing how to take accountability for his own actions, which is what he has to learn how to do, which is a very, very, very grating character flaw of somebody who doesn't know how to take accountability.
I like him though. And I haven't
Kaz
finished season 2. I'm still in the middle of that too. Again, my watch list.
Well, if you hurry up, you can come. We just started on Checkhouse and Jedi. If you hurry up, you can come join us.
Okay. Yeah, but I definitely want to finish it. But Bucho said he said about Din. Saying, I don't know anything about this guy, but his R2 unit seems sweet, so what the heck, I guess I trust him. Here's
my child! That scene actually made my friend Brian really mad. He's been going on a very interesting arc with, and this is my friend Brian over from Pink Milk, so go check out Pink Milk. Wonderful thing. But he's a gay parent, and he sees... we did an entire round table with a bunch of various beautiful people, and I was on the round table about it, and we were looking at The Mandalorian through a queer lens, and how Din as a queer-coded character, and like the armor is your protection, and like when you start stripping away the armor, it's like coming out, but you have to know how much you expose yourself and stuff like that. And so him as a gay parent really has connected with Din taking in Grogu, and it's just he's had a really visceral reaction to that of like, someone is taking my children, because he has actually lived through that. He lived with the threat of courts threatening to take away his children just for being gay. And so he had such a strong reaction to that, and he was angry, which was interesting because Luke Skywalker was his hero growing up. Ahsoka was his hero in his Middle Ages because Ahsoka is also another very queer coded character. A lot of people postcards from Galaxy's Edge, I think is what they're called. Sorry, I want to make sure I get this right because I was on their show and I should know this. Shannon from Postcards from the Galaxy's Edge. They did a piece about finding Star Wars, the moment Star Wars spoke to me with love. I was actually on this episode, and it was a group of queer people talking about when Star Wars spoke to them as queer people. Almost every single person said Ahsoka Tano, walking away from the Jedi Order, because it's like walking away from either religion, either having to walk away from family, walking away from these institutions who don't accept you. And Brian went through that as well, and he talked about that. Like, that is actually a moment that a lot of queer people talk about. I mean, I've walked away from organized religion too because they didn't accept me. I mean, it's so interesting being a Christian and also believing in God, but also being gay. It's a life, because I believe in God, but I don't believe in the church. So like, these moments are important. So like, Brian had such a visceral reaction to that because Luke Skywalker was his hero, and here's his hero coming in with now his adult hero, who he sees so much of himself in Din Djarin as being like this armored up queer character and having someone taking away his child when that was actually a threat of someone trying to take away his children just for existing.
Well, it's actually, I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways, any content, doesn't matter what it is, you're bringing your own subjective experience along with you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
find it beautiful that so many different people can connect with something that's so dear to me in a way that can, it's almost like it speaks to all of us in just a bunch of different ways. And I don't know, I just love it. I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's and we connect to people to like things differently too.
Yeah.
Like it took me being an adult to learn how to appreciate Leia, and I wish I appreciated her when I was younger. But
I didn't like Leia when I was a kid, but I mean now I think
because she was a girl, and girls are gross with their cooties.
I don't know, but I think part of what it was just Carrie Fisher and how crazy she was and how awesome she was and how she just didn't give a crap. I love that.
Carrie was amazing. May her forever rest in peace.
It's weird how I never met her, but I was in the room and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were up on the thing. I was watching a thing with them. Mm-hmm. That was amazing, but I never got to meet her. I haven't met Mark Hamill. I didn't meet, it's the conventions. Those are awesome. And
I miss conventions. Oh my God.
Yeah. And what was it?
The biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I've missed from 2020 is going to cons and seeing my friends.
I love it. And I gotta say, I got to meet Dave Filoni in the second season of the Clone Wars before he was a big deal. He was just walking along, and I was like, "Hey, Dave, hey, I really love Clone Wars or whatever." And he's like, "Thanks," and just like sat there and talked with me. Normal dude at the time. Now he's
Dave Filoni with his hat.
Oh yeah. It's just amazing.
We're gonna see a Dave Filoni directed Star Wars movie before the end of this decade. Mark my words. They've been slowly moving him up because he's George's predecessor, and like Dave has his flaws of his own and stuff like that, and he's not perfect, but he's definitely done a lot for Star Wars since George.
Yeah. Well, and it's the themes. George's themes are present in a lot of. To me, I feel like Clone Wars was, I mean, you probably agree with this, Dave was the Padawan, and Lucas was, Lucas wasn't doing the things, but he was definitely there going.
He was doing the things. He was there in the day-to-day for Clone Wars.
Well, I know, but he wasn't directing stuff.
Yeah.
But Dave was directing, but he was still there going, now, Dave, you got to make sure you do this thing, and whatever. And teaching, giving, he was on the, showing him the ropes.
Yeah.
About what Star Wars is.
And then Rebels got to break out with Dave. Like he got to do kind of his own thing. And then when you come to Resistance, it was him stepping into George's role. Because like he started Resistance, but he didn't run the day-to-day. It was the first show he didn't run the day-to-day with. And he specifically did it because he wanted people that he had been training, like Justin Ridge, Justin Ridge is somebody that worked with Dave Filoni all the way back to Avatar: The Last Airbender. They worked on that show together. Mm-hmm. And so there are so many Avatar nods in Star Wars animation and in The Mandalorian. Like when I saw like the Ahsoka episode, when you have like the wall of the poor people and then you get inside and you have that in the interior and stuff, that's Ba Sing Se.
Yeah.
Straight up Ba Sing Se from Avatar. I saw that and I was like, yeah, do it. What was I saying? But yeah, like Dave is stepping into that role. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes and how his career, we'll be watching his career with great interest.
With great interest.
But yeah.
Even though we've already had great interest.
Yeah. But Bucho said, and this is going back again, he said, I still hadn't forgiven JJ for sidelining Rose.
Well, okay, here's where it gets me. You ready? This is where it gets me. Was the press tour. The press tour is why it makes me mad. Because the press tour, JJ came out and pulled Kelly Marie Tran out and was like, Rian Johnson has given us the greatest gift of Kelly Marie Tran and Rose Tico. Do you know officially how much Rose is in that movie? 90 seconds. And and you could see Kelly just smiling, just like holding her tongue because it's a press tour and she can't talk and she's still under contract. But he like was like Kelly Marie Trad is the greatest thing. We think Ryan Johnson every day. And I think where it gets me is the Dominic Monaghan character. Because don't get me wrong, I love Dominic Monaghan. I'm a Hobbit fan. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. That was like my middle in high school, was being obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I love Dominic Monaghan, but he's in that movie because he won a bet. And that is not a good reason. And pretty much any line that he said could have went to Rose. He didn't actually do any. I don't even think they named his character in this movie. I don't even know his character's name. Do you?
Mm-mm.
No, he's in there because he won a bet with JJ. That's not a good reason to put someone, like, at least let him be in the background. Don't give him entire speaking roles that take away from other characters.
Yeah.
What fan fiction is for. Fix it all.
Bucho also said Leia revealed how flawed both Luke and Han were by being more badass than both of them until they finally caught up to her.
I don't. What context is that in? Like in sequel trilogies or just in general?
No, well, I think in the original trilogy, it's like, well, somebody's got to save our skins, and
oh yeah, that's true.
Into the garbage chute, Flyboy, and it's like, oh, hey, okay, let's do what she said. It's weird. It wasn't that. It was just that. I don't know. Maybe it, like you said earlier, it was like, oh, cool. Yeah.
I was saying, how old were you? Like 10?
Well, I was when Empire came out in the theaters, I was 4, and that's my first actual memory.
Oh, then you're definitely in the range of like, ew, girls.
Yeah.
Ew.
But then I was 7 when Return of the Jedi came out, and that was a different experience altogether.
Cuties.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, she's kind of pretty with barely any clothes on. And now looking back on that and talk about something that hadn't aged well. I don't understand these feelings
inside me, but I know I like them.
Yeah, it's again, talk about something that hadn't aged well. That whole sequence is like, eesh.
What gets me is actually Han in Empire Strikes Back, where she clearly says no, and he's like, I'm just gonna force kisses on you, and
yeah.
I definitely
know. Was that Bucho that said that? I can't remember, but it was the first time where I was like, oh, I never thought about how creepy that was until now.
I can promise you that women thought that was creepy, because I always thought that was creepy, even when I was a little girl. I'm like, she said no, and he did it anyway. That's mean.
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy.
That's where we were talking about where it's time. Like, that was a very common storytelling trope of like that time period. So and we've definitely gone past that.
Yeah.
So like that's one of just like those things of like, was it okay then? No, but it is still a story element of that time.
Yeah.
So,
now
I would.
I can't believe we've already been talking almost 2 hours. Can you believe it?
I know, and I would love to talk some Zelda with you.
I know. I was gonna bring that up. I mean, I didn't even get to all the stuff that I wanted to ask you about Star Wars stuff, but we can
do rapid fire.
But that's to me, that's what I love about live, is that you just go with the conversation and see where the conversation takes you, and that's just, I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be happy to talk a little bit longer if I can pee right fast.
Okay. Well, then let's do that. Let's just
since
take
I dropped my drink, I ran out of drink very fast. So if I can get more drink, I can talk for like another half an hour with you.
Okay, sounds good. Well then, guys, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back in just a second.
Because I would love to talk Zelda. I never have anyone to talk Zelda with, so I'm just like, I'm gonna talk about Zelda.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll be right back, guys. We're back.
Are we back right now?
Yeah.
Hi. Welcome back.
You okay? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very like, like when you inhale and you're just like, oh god, I'm choking on spit. So. Yeah,
I did that earlier when I had to mute myself because I was like, oh my gosh, that was so.
I use Zoom so rarely, I have no idea. Oh hey, I moved my mouse and there's a mute button. Look at that. Look.
I kind of control it, but only when like when we went on break. I put us both on mute so we could
That's fine. That's fine. I had to slather more arthritis cream on my face.
Ah.
That's actually something I really like that you do. Because the reason I had to slather, right? I'm getting oral surgery on Thursday, so I've been living with tooth pain. But I found that I probably shouldn't be slathering arthritis cream on my face, but it helps the pain. But I actually really like that about like your show is how open you are about your past like surgeries and stuff like that. I don't think that's something that, especially when it comes to content creators, that I think is becoming more of the norm now. But having the openness to talk about that, that's good. We live in a system where like success is like how much stuff you can do, like how much money you make, how much content you put out. But that's a system, a very capitalist system, which doesn't let us just be human beings, you know?
Right.
And I appreciate you doing that because being human should be normalized.
Yeah.
We get sick. I have to like take a few days off because I had to go take care of oral surgery. And like,
Yeah.
I had more anxiety about taking days off to take care of myself than I was about like actually taking care of myself, which is a flaw in the system. So it's something that we do need to normalize. And I really appreciate that about your show, Rob. So, I've been slathering arthritis cream on my face to conquer pain in my face.
It's, hey, I totally get it. And it's,
Yeah.
well, I guess my thing was that, I don't know, it's weird. It's like when I was going through my surgeries, I did my little podcast. It wasn't really a podcast. It was literally me just posting stuff over on the old switched on boards. But and Bucho, I think, was like the only person listening. But it felt good to just talk about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird how. Look, I'm white. I'm straight. I'm I'm all the kind of things that I'm just a dude, right? But I feel like in a weird way, like, I mean, I live in Texas, heavy Christian, whatever, right? But I'm an agnostic, and it's like there's a weird way that I always felt segregated from all of my friends and family and all that stuff because they were all like this. Then when I went through this surgery, I literally felt like I wasn't human anymore because I was going through somebody and everybody else was going through their things. And it's like, I felt like nobody understood and I felt alone. And it's one of the things that I've tried to, every now and then I do bring it up again, the surgery stuff and all that. But I want, it's the worst part of it was the mental part, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's one of the things that I've tried to put here every now and then, at least, to just say, hey, you're not alone. The stuff that you're going through,
Yeah.
the pain that you're going through, it's real. It's okay. You can talk about it if you want. If you want to just sit with it for a while, I mean, that's what I had to do. I sat with it for years before I started talking about it. And then now I'm like, it's a part of me, and I feel like I'm not even human anymore. It's weird.
And I think that's okay. I'm going to say this with, again, like no context or anything to go by. I think it's very important that you, as a man, talking about this is very important because it's very normal about men not talking about their feelings or their pain, which is actually quite detrimental to them. Talking about things and like expression emotion is a stress reliever. It's been a clinically proven stress reliever. And men have higher rates of like heart attacks and strokes because of this form of like of not talking and sharing those things and like keeping it inside you and stuff.
Yep.
But like there are things that need to be normalized and talked about. And when it comes to like being basic human functions, like oh gosh, what was it? Hold on. I might get a little.
I was just gonna say real quick, Bucho has to roll. He says he's got family malarkey to take care of, so I'll catch the rest of this on replay later. Have a good one. May the force be with y'all. And he said, just do another 3 hours.
No, I can't.
Maybe not another 3 hours, but have a good one, Bucho. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for everything.
So to kind of talk about like normalizing like normal stuff, there is a comedian who has a song, Marcia Belsky, and she has a song about how NASA literal rocket scientists didn't understand female anatomy, so they gave Sally Ride 100 tampons for 6 days. And she wrote an entire song about it. And this, okay, I hope can't sing, but it goes like, remember when NASA sent a woman to space for only 6 days, and they gave her 100 tampons, and they asked, would that be enough? But like, so that's why I like something like E.K. Johnson writing Star Wars. E.K. Johnson is writing like the Padme books, and these are 14-year-old girls, and you know what? They have periods, and that's part of it. And there's a whole like storyline where one of the male captains of the guards put in a blood sensor. It's like in Padme's room, because it was like, if she's attacked out, you'll pick it up. And his wife is like, you're an idiot. These are 14-year-old girls. Because one of the girls had their period and the sensor went crazy. And she was like, you deserve this, honey.
Wow.
You know,
that's in the book?
It's in the book. It's a
Those
scene
are all on my list. I haven't read them yet. That's crazy. That's awesome.
But
See,
like, you know, like normalizing stuff like that, like I can't remember ever reading a Star Wars where I'm just like, oh my God, space periods. Cause then I was then joking with my friend Arzu, actually last night or the night before. No, it was the night before. Where like Anakin having to give Ahsoka the talk, and like he's never had to do that before, so Obi-Wan just stuffs their ship full of tampons because Anakin can't do it, and Obi-Wan's just like, here you go, Ahsoka. And Ahsoka's like, why are there 100 of them? What? Remember when my master sent me to space? These are literally space wizards. Anyways, Zelda.
So Zelda, yeah.
Zelda. I want to talk about Zelda.
So what was your first like entry into Legend of Zelda? Because I find that like Star Wars, everybody's got that first Legend of Zelda game.
Ocarina
of Time.
Actually, I have a really weird relationship with video games. And so much it comes from the fact that, like, growing up, we never had a lot of money. So, like, I remember getting a Sega Genesis and having to share it with my sister because we could only have one. And her being the big sister, she always got, like, kind of first dibs of it. So, like, actually, like, Sonic was a really big, like, first video game for me. Like, actually, my very first comic book was Sonic the Hedgehog number 33. I still have it. It doesn't have a cover on it, but it's my very first comic. So I always had this kind of weird relationship with video games growing up, which was I didn't play them a lot because I couldn't afford them. So a lot of my experiences with games was being at other people's houses and watching them play. So I never got to play it, but I would experience the stories. And so I remember when my friend had an N64 and I was staying at her house and we had been playing Mario, and she was like, you should see this game. And it was Ocarina of Time. And I just had never experienced anything like that. And I made a specialty file just so I could watch her play, not even have me play. I wanted to watch her play. And so when it came to video games, like growing up, I remember I still have my first PS2 that I got I was in high school. So like 2004-ish, I guess, because I only had like 3 games, which was Kingdom Hearts and then Kingdom Hearts 2 after that, and then Shadows of Colossus and Final Fantasy 9 and 10. So I had 4 games. Those are the only games I owned for the PS2 because I couldn't afford anything else. And I still remember just going over to my friends' houses and like wanting to play stuff like Super Smash Brothers, but because I'd never played, I just kept getting beaten. So I stopped kind of caring about playing video games. I just wanted to watch them and experience them. And I think that's like why Zelda, especially Breath of the Wild, like really resonated with me, because like I actually kind of get frustrated when I watch your streams because you're just like, I just want to play the games and fight stuff. And I'm like, but the lore, Rob, there's so much lore. Because like I don't play, like I think that's why Age of Calamity has been resonant, because I'm not that far in Age of Calamity. I'm only on like chapter 3, because running a business takes up a lot of time, and I run my own business. But I know the spoilers. I know the story. I know how it ends and stuff like that, because I went ahead and I was like, I must know the story. And that's what I like about Zelda is there's so much story and lore, especially when they brought out like the timeline split, and I was like, this is my fucking jam. And so like just like little things, especially in Breath of the Wild, like the other day when you were streaming, you were going through the desert and you went through the Arbiter's ground, and my brain went, that's where they failed to kill Ganondorf in Twilight Princess. Like there's those story and lore connections there. And so I love the story of Zelda. You have this like this similar but still ever changing hero. You have a princess. You have like this like slew of characters and that are changing, but the world is changing, but it's still so familiar. It actually feels a lot like Star Wars. Like you're in the same galaxy, and that's actually kind of what I like about High Republic. You know, it's new and familiar. You know, like in this, they just discovered, like they're just starting to explore the Outer Rim. They're like, yeah, that new planet of Mon Cala.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, Mon Cala, that's where Admiral Akbar is. And that's what I like about being in like Zelda, especially now when maybe they didn't mean to try to do this at first, but you know, now that we have this timeline, like in Breath of the Wild is a really good example of like connecting that lore and seeing like how these timelines probably did somehow come together. Like I actually have a theory that the first calamity 10,000 years ago, the calamity was the timelines crashing together to make this. That's my personal theory. And that's why it kind of failed, because it was 3 timelines crashing into each other. I would love for a game to be about how about how the timelines actually came together, and maybe that was Breath of the Wild,
right,
from 10,000 years ago, because that's a hero, that's a Link we don't know about. So I love the story of it. Like that's where I was joking, like saying I play pacifist about Zelda, because I don't actually care about the gameplay. I don't care about the fighting. I suck at the flurry rushes. I suck at perfect parries. I actually found, here's a good example. Here you go. I found the exact spot in the Colosseum where you could be on the very top of it and shoot down at the Lionel. And when it notices you, if you back up, you're far enough to where it resets the Lionel, but keeps the damage, so he won't attack you. And I just sat there and sniped at him for like 45 minutes because I didn't want to fight him and I still wanted his shit. So because I didn't care and it was fun. That's why I like doing the Kilton mission, and I like getting all the masks so I can just move through the countryside and just swap out my mask. And sometimes I like to sit with bokoblins and like watch them interact, and I like to feed them and watch them get all happy and like burp and like eat food and be like a happy little community. Like, you know, I still haven't beaten Breath of the Wild. Like, you know, I am finishing up the Champions Ballad right now, just because it's a time thing. I just haven't had time to do it. But I also don't care about beating the game. You know, I just like finding what I can. Like I just the other day was getting the Squire outfit. And one of the Squire outfits is you go right up to the door where Calamity Ganon is. Like once you move in, you're in the final boss. And then you go to the left and you climb up and you get it in the thing. And I just went, what if I just climb on top of Hyrule Castle? So I just climbed to the very top of Hyrule Castle, scooted all up, and got my Korok seed, and then I just flew on out of there. I didn't care. I don't care about fighting Ganon. But I love the lore and the story, because I think that's where Zelda really resonates with me, is the story and the lore of it. Like there's so much lore and timelines and characters, and
it's definitely grown. The more, it's like every game they add another layer, which is just so cool. I just love that. Really quick, Eagle and Vicky have landed. Hi,
I'm Hope. Nice to meet you.
The Eagle, that's my dad, by the way. So, my dad watches. So, but
my dad doesn't. He doesn't understand technology.
But like, I remember the first. Like, okay, my first game was the original because I'm older than most people on Twitch, but the story didn't matter back then. It was just gameplay.
Yeah, just gameplay.
But Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo was the one where it was the first time where there was actually story and actual like emotional stuff happening, you know. Mm-hmm. And then Ocarina of Time, it's funny because a lot of people say that Ocarina of Time is their favorite. Even, you know, some of the old school players. Yeah. Eagle said, welcome Hope. So,
Aww, hi Dad. Hi Rob's dad.
Yeah. But yeah, what was weird was I didn't connect with any of that story. And then I went in my, I guess, rebellious 20s where I was like, games are for kids.
Me.
And, yeah. And so
Been there, done
Ocarina
that.
of Time was the first real one that I sat down, and of course Ocarina of Time, guess it came out in what, 2017, right? That was when I was stuck at home.
27 Ocarina 90s.
I mean, not Ocarina of Time, Breath of the
Breath
Wild.
of the Wild. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
When Breath of the Wild came out, the Switch had just come out. That was the year where I was at home on IV, couldn't leave the house. So that was my escape. Breath of the Wild was my escape. Didn't want to finish the game. So that's when I found all the shrines and I was doing all the things, and I put off playing the end of the game, finding the memories, all that stuff. It was all secondary to me just being in the world and getting in adventures, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I need to beat this game. I need to finish this game. I've gotten all the shrines. You know, I'm not getting all 900 Korok seeds.
No, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. So let's find all the memories. And so I've been all this time kind of creating my own story in a way, and then seeing the memories, and the memories shaped my view of the story. And then I got to tell you, because I son. At least we have sun today. We have sun at my house today, but it was been cloudy for like the last 3 days. So
yeah, it was raining this morning, so the clouds are starting to move out. So,
but because you've seen the ending of Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, I'm aware.
Okay, so when the ending happens, and Link is on Epona, right?
A horse. Epona's not actually in the game.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's
it's
kind
a
of
horse.
meant to be the thing. And then you get the bow, and that music kicks in. I'm sitting there, and it was at a complete emotional thing for me. And I had to put the game on pause because I'm crying. Just crying. The music is blaring. I'm crying. And I'm like, I can't play and I tried to play and I couldn't see because I was crying so much.
My first experience seeing that ending was watching Game Grumps play it, and just Aaron just being like, oh, I'm going to own this. And then he can't drive the horse, and he's just like, this sucks.
Yeah. I couldn't, but I had to put the game on pause. I had to wait to finish it so I could see. And then I got to tell you, Age of Calamity, which I know you haven't, you've seen the story.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I got to be careful.
Can we talk spoilers? Are we going to talk spoilers?
Sure, I mean, we can talk spoilers.
But this is where I think Age of Calamity hits me, is just the story. Like the storytelling is really, to me, is better than I think the gameplay of Breath of the Wild is better, but the story and the music of Age of Calamity is better to me. And a lot of it. Oh, you finish what you were saying.
Well, I was just going to say when
Sidon.
This didn't happen. No, it wasn't Sidon. It was
he
when
came out. It was like, you will not take her from me again. I was like,
it's good. It's really good. But it was when it's when I lost it, and this was off stream. This is one of those things where, you see these reactions online of different people playing games and stuff, and I just was like, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I want to stream this game because I'm still not crazy about the game.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here playing it.
Kind of game.
Yeah, I'm sitting here playing it, and when that happens, I didn't even get to it. When Zelda's reaching out to Link, she lets go of Impa, and she's like that. And then when that happens, I'm like all of a sudden crying again. Then that music kicks in. And I sat here and just sobbed. The music is so powerful. If you love Breath of the Wild, that music is, it's so well done. And
I found somebody who has put the entire soundtrack up, and it's like 6.5 hours long. And it's just, I love how they reinvented some, like Mifa's theme. Mifa's theme is this like beautiful, very calm music. And they took Mifa's theme and turned it into like this war epic battle cry. And I'm just like, it's so good. And I think that's like where like Breath of the Wild's music kind of fell short for me, because it's beautiful ambience, but it's not Zelda, like Zelda has these like epic swelling battle themes. They have these very unique like themes. They even have like side quests have these like fun, like kind of jaunty things.
Yeah.
And like Age of Calamity took Breath of the Wild's music and turned it into Zelda music.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, and I will agree with that, but I will also say that I love Breath of the Wild's almost meditative. It almost
Yeah.
puts me in a zen state when I play it.
I use it to work because it's so like ambience. I don't have to think about it. I just put it in the background and I work to it.
But I mean, just playing the game though, it's why it's my favorite game to stream, because I can play it and just kind of go into this comfortable, safe world. It's safe to me because I've played the game for 300 plus hours, but it's just
right.
You know what I mean? It's like
sometimes I like to get on my horse and just ride around Hyrule. It's fine.
So beautiful, and it's comfortable, and I can joke around and be silly and be goofy. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I also like, I love Breath of the Wild because as somebody who because I like I said, I haven't played a lot of the games just because I never had the funds to do it. Like it wasn't until I started getting older that I started kind of getting more of this. And like I had other priorities, as is like I'm wearing a Pokemon shirt that I designed myself. Like Pokemon is my friend. You can't see my babies down there. My babies. Like Pokemon is actually my franchise that I love as much as Star Wars. I've actually loved Pokemon longer than Star Wars. Like it's one of my absolute favorite franchises. So I always actually put a lot of priority into Pokemon over Zelda. But I like the lore of Zelda better, and I think that's where Breath of the Wild really kind of pulled me back into that, because I did kind of take a long, I liked Ocarina, and I liked Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, like all the 3D Zeldas, because I had a Wii U, so I was able to rent those games and play them. So I've been able to really delve into 3D Zelda, and I've been dying to play Wind Waker. So I really hope we get a 3D Wind Waker soon for, this year's Zelda's 35th anniversary.
I know. I'm hoping.
I hope we get it. I want to play Wind Waker, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say real quick, Wind Waker. I only played I didn't play very much of it, just because I was, like I said, I was in my 20s and I'm too
games are stupid.
Games. Yeah, so I want to play that again. I've never played Twilight Princess. I've never played Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword is not my favorite. The game of Skyward Sword is not my favorite, but I like the lore of Skyward Sword because it's the earliest of the. It's the establishing the timeline. It's the earliest timeline one, and we actually saw some of that, like the Gate of Time that opened for Terraco and Age of Calamity. Like it was a nod back to the Gate of Time. So like that's kind of like when it came to something like Breath of the Wild. Like Breath of the Wild is what really got me back into the Zelda lore, because it has things from all three timelines. Because up to that point, they'd been very distinctly separated. Like, Twilight Princess was clearly connected to Ocarina of Time, because we have the hero of time as the hero Shade teaching his descendant. It has those timelines and things. So then when you have something like Breath of the Wild that's clearly at some point much later in the timeline that's connecting everything together, that just makes fires all the pistons in my brain. It fires all the pistons, because I'm just, for one, it asks the question of how do we have things from like the child timeline, the adult timeline, and the downfall timeline all in one world? How did that happen? What is the explanation? What is the story behind that? Then you have just like the little things, like the nostalgia. We talked about nostalgia and like how it's important and stuff. And I have a very firm belief that nostalgia is not fan service if it serves the purpose of the story. So, Luke Skywalker served the purpose of the story of The Mandalorian. That is not fan service. That is just using nostalgia to tell a story. Breath of the Wild just goes all out with like fan service, like we have the ranch ruins. That is Lon Lon Ranch from Ocarina, like you have these like nods to like Wind Waker. You have these nods to like Link to the Past. Like even like the Minish were supposed to be in Breath of the Wild. They're in like concept art. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we get like the nod to the Minish when we get into like Breath of the Wild 2, which I just, now with Age of Calamity, I don't know what we're going to do with that, because that's going to tell whether or not Age of Calamity is even canon. Because if we get into Breath of the Wild 2 and Sidon's like, yeah, I went to a whole alternate universe and came back and saved my sister, but now I'm here and she's dead in this world. Like, that's going to say a lot. Like, then that pulls into, like, are the Hyrule Warriors games canon? Like, there's a lot of really fun questions with that.
It's almost like, well, they've done it with Marvel stuff. They've done it with Star Trek. They've all these alternate universes. DC's doing it now. So maybe that's what it is that it's just like a separate timeline, which I like a completely separate
timeline. It's the timeline again. Yeah.
But
because now we have two of those worlds. We have like the age of we have the Age of Calamity, which is the new Terrico world with even just something is different. Like Terrico changed the timeline to where Link and Zelda met sooner, which completely saved everybody. And if that just shows that if Link and Zelda had met sooner in the original timeline and had formed that bond and that connection, that's what could have happened, with some subtle differences because, heroes from another timeline came over and saved the past and stuff like that. But that just changed the very aspect of the story of like Link and Zelda's dynamic, it changed the story, allowing her to have this deeper bond with her knight.
Yeah, and Breath of the Wild cemented that for me in a way that no other story had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it's that one memory of the Yiga clan attacking.
Oh yeah.
When I first saw that memory, I'm like, why am I crying? I'm playing a video game. Why am I crying? Because I'm one of those that I'm an easy crier. Okay, I have been my entire life.
Give me a good like Coca-Cola or Publix commercial. Like I know it's Christmas when they whip out the Publix commercials, and they're just like, oh, the mom wanted to bake a pie, and her son's home from college, and like the son was pulled away, and he chose to stay and eat pie with his mom, Publix, and I'm just like, they had pie together.
Yeah, I'm the same way. A good commercial will get me too. But but I can also cry on command, which is a weird thing. I can just
cry.
You really?
No, I'm kidding.
I can.
Okay.
I will.
No,
huh?
You don't have to. You don't have to.
It's a weird thing though. I've always been able to do that since I was a kid. I don't know why, but
that your parents loved that.
It's Eagle and I tried. Look, I was kind of manipulative as a kid. I'll just say it.
Eagle in the chat, was he?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I'm not proud of it. But yeah, I just remember I played Minish Cap for the first time not too long ago. And did you ever play that one?
No, I haven't played any of the 2D ones.
See, it was just one of those things like, oh, I can play this. I'll try it. There's a part where Link jumps in front of Zelda, immediately start crying again. And I'm like, damn it, Breath of the Wild, you ruined me. Because now every time Link does that, I think of that whole dynamic, and it just it gets me.
I think it was definitely built on the story of Skyward Sword, where Link and Zelda were childhood friends. And I like this idea of them. It shows the importance of the two of them knowing each other. There's
cute. Minish Cap is very cute.
Yeah, and I like that in Skyward Sword, where it's not Link going out wanting to save the world because he's told to. He's going out to save his friend. Zelda falls in Skyward Sword. Zelda falls into a storm, falls to the ground. He's going to look for his friend, and her father and everybody else is like, "Oh, you're the hero of the skies," and he's just like, I just want to save my girlfriend, maybe get a kiss, get a thing going. But I also love her. And it shows the importance of like their relationship. And I think that's where it's going to be really interesting to see how they keep going forward, because there is also a cycle happening.
Right.
And the bond of the hero and the princess is what's always rising up against demise and the darkness in Ganondorf. Or Ganon, name you want to use, the pig man monster demise demon, Gant, whatever. But I think it's going to be interesting because of how they handle that going forward. And I like a lot of fan takes there's been a lot of speculation of, you know, how to break the cycle. The cycle keeps churning because of Demise's curse, which is, you know, like as long as the hero and the princess rise up and stuff like that, I will keep getting reborn. So every time you defeat me, you restart the cycle. And so there's a lot of fan art and speculation of, if the reason and the way that they break the cycle is redeeming Ganon, redeeming him, them not defeating him, them actually helping him, because that to break as a way to break Demise's curse. And there's a lot of great fan art of like, you know, like Ganon just being like, can I kill this? And they're like, no. And they're like, well, we want to. Okay. Almost like a cat, but there, you know, you might have seen like the sexy Ganondorf artwork too as well. But like, I think that's a very interesting take of like, you know, you can have these stories and stuff like that, but there is something a bit repetitive about Zelda, you know, and I think that's where it's not like the story is getting changed, but the gameplay is what changes, and that's what keeps Zelda fresh. But it's not actually the story, because the stories are very simple. There's a princess, you're a hero, you go out, you beat the bad guy, blah blah blah. And to me, like, what makes the lore so interesting is like the everything around it, like the characters and stuff like that, and the world. And you know, Wind Waker is interesting because you're in the sea and stuff like that, but it's not the actual story. So I think if they want to keep Zelda fresh, figuring out how to break Demise's curse could be an interesting way of taking the series, you know, like maybe Breath of the Wild could be not about beating Ganon, but saving him from Demise. You know, like the reason that like Ganon is such a threat is because of Demise and Demise's curse. So it's not to beat Ganon, it's to beat Demise and separating them, and separating those two to break the wheel and break the cycle. And what would that mean? And of course, I'm just spitballing and speculating. And you know, I'm a lover of villains. Anybody who knows me knows I love a good villain. So yeah,
that's awesome though, because I'll be honest, it's one of those things. I used to do it all the time. Now I don't. I very rarely do it now, and that's speculation. And it's because my own speculation gets in the way of the enjoyment of the actual thing when it comes out.
That's a problem with like a lot of things too.
Right.
I think speculation is fun, but only responsibly. And like, it's fun to speculate. It's not fun to hold your speculations against what the story that the creators are telling.
Right. And I've been saying, in fact, it's something that I almost feel like I need to hit a button when I say it, because it's like, oh, Rob's saying the words again. You know what I mean? It's, you know, you can't hold a thing against what it can never be. Right? You can't.
That's good. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It can never be what you want it to be or what you speculated it to be. Why are you holding it to that standard? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird. It's just a weird thing with Breath of the Wild or with Zelda in general. I have never speculated about what comes next. What you just said just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
I mean, we have Breath of the Wild 2 coming. You know, what's it? Because we didn't actually see Ganon. We saw an avatar of Ganon.
Yeah.
You know, we know that Ganon is actually somewhere held underneath it. Like maybe, when you talk about speculation and stuff like that, like all the Zelda theorists that I listen to and watch are like all obsessed with the Zonai and like, oh, the Zonai. And I'm just like, wouldn't it be hilarious if there's like nothing about the Zonai in the Breath of the Wild 2 and you're all just like, but the Zonai. But because like, you know, the whole entire Faron region is wrapped up in Zonai ruins. You get the barbarian outfit, which is the Zonai. All the labyrinths are Zonai and blah, 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 blah. And I just like, wouldn't it be just like a big old like, fuck you in the face? Like just be like, no Zonai, not at all. What was I saying? But yeah, like, you know, we very rarely have sequels. You know, you have Ocarina of Time and then you have Majora's Mask. It's a direct sequel. We have, which one is it? Is it Link to the Past is the sequel to the first one, or that vice versa? Two of the games in the Downfall timelines are, one's a sequel to the other one, and it's the same Link.
I don't know.
yeah. And then I think Spirit Tracks is the sequel to, I think, either Spirit Tracks is Phantom Hourglass's sequel or Phantom Hourglass is Wind Waker's sequel. But there's another sequel there too. But we don't get a lot of sequels in Zelda. where you
Yeah.
have the same Link and the same Zelda telling a continuation of their stories. And that's why I think that's one of the things I feel like is so unique in the child timeline, where you have the hero time in 3 different iterations. You have the hero time in his original thing, you have the hero time in Majora's Mask, and then you have him in Twilight Princess, where he's had this horrible like turn of events where he's dead and he's cursed because people forgot about his deeds because he went back in time and it corrupted him. You know, that's such a I love Lauren's story, Rob. You're just
it's like, man, they really need to come out with a collection of all those.
they have it in the
year.
manga. The manga does a really good job of like kind of like going through that. So when you get to the Twilight Princess manga, you know, if you've already read the Ocarina and the Majora's Mask manga, you get to the Twilight Princess manga and it hits really hard because you've had these kind of stories. That's actually like something I would love to see them do more, because what the manga does is they give Link a voice. It's so well, that's the interesting thing about Breath of the Wild. He's clearly answering people.
Yeah.
And Link is very funny. Like, I was joking about the seal puns the other day. Those are Link's answers, making up stupid seal puns. And I wish they would kind of play on that more, because Link has either make him mute or give him a voice, but like this like weird in between, because like there's actually theories about like why Link is so vocal in Breath of the Wild, because in the memories Zelda clearly says, you know, you're silent like your father, you choose to be silent, but he wakes up at the beginning of Breath of the Wild with no memories, so he has no memories of doing that. So he's of course just talking. He's just a dude just talking like, let me make dumb seal puns. And I like that because we actually really get to look at Link's personality as a human, versus him just being like this guy is just like rah. And I think that's where we actually get to see him for the first time as a character,
right?
You know, because Link is, even though he is the avatar for the player and he's the avatar of like us putting ourselves in the hero's role, there also has to be a point where Link has a character. Because you can only have the same kind of blank slate for so long, and we've been kind of getting a little bit at that at a time. You know, Ocarina gave us a little bit of that. Skyward Sword giving us like him this past with Zelda kind of gave us that. But now, like with Breath of the Wild, like he's actually giving answers and he has thoughts and opinions. Like this is where I was talking about like what was the really shitty guy with the snow and the sand boots that I hate? His name's like Bonai or something.
Yeah, Bozai or
Bozai. Like
yeah.
How Link treats him versus how he treats someone like Valia or Bolson says a lot about who Link is as a person. So I love Valia and Bolson for one, because they are very queer characters in a Zelda game, and they just are. You know, Valia is the beautiful woman who gives Link the Gerudo female clothes. And she is totally transgender to me. I see her as transgender. She's a transgender woman. That's what she is, and I accept that. And then you have Bolson, who's clearly coded gay, you know, pink, you know, but he owns this awesome construction company, and Link is just fine with them.
Yeah.
You know, he even wears the women's clothes and he doesn't care. You know, he doesn't fall into those tropes of toxic masculinity, because that is a problem with Tingle in the past. Tingle has been the butt of a lot of like queer jokes in the past, when you get into that. But then you have characters like Bolson and Valia, who is just allowed to exist, and everyone's fine with them. No one cares that Bolson is a gay guy who runs a construction company. He's building them houses. He has Hudson. He supports Hudson and his friends. He has a company. He's a business owner. He's fine. Valia has this dream and like gets to go to Gerudo Town, and she's just accepted for who she is. Even though she was born with something different, the women of Gerudo Town let her in because they see her as a woman. And Link doesn't treat them any different. And then you go to the sand and snow boot guy, and he's clearly a creep. And as you were reading it very beautifully when you're stream, Link's cutting him off. He's like, I'm not letting you finish your sentences. I'm not letting you be a creep. You're not, because keep in mind, Link's dressed like a woman. So this man is talking down to him like that. And Link recognizes that as a character and cuts him off and is just, let me get to business. I'm not going to let you treat me like that. I might be a man, but I'm dressed as a woman. And I can see that this is how you project yourself onto other women. This is how you speak to other women. And I will not, as the hero, accept that. But he accepts people like Valia and Bolson. And that's why I wish they would like give Link more of a voice, because to me, like, those are incredibly powerful character moments for Link.
Yeah.
And especially like someone like me. Is there any way I can share my screen? I can't.
don't know.
I can't. I have this wonderful picture of Link with Valia and Bolson, and I can hear it. Like, I can hear the music of it. Like, it is just them together, and it's pure and it's powerful, and it's just, it means so much to me to have like as a queer player, to see the hero being so supportive of people like me and putting down other people who would like be super toxic towards people like me, like not just as queer but as a woman, like that, but not whatever the snow boot and sand boot guy is named. That means a lot. That means something. And that's why I love seeing like Link's character. That's why I love exploring the world of Breath of the Wild. That's like, you know, seeing people's dreams and ambitions and watching how he relates to them. And Link's funny. He makes stupid sand puns, seal puns. He makes dumb puns. He likes, like, because every answer that we choose for Link to say, Link is saying those as a character.
Right.
And those are his thoughts and his emotions. But when we play him, we get this like just the very quiet, like, Rah! And I hope that's something that we don't lose in Breath of the Wild too, because it's really refreshing to see that little kind of dorky side of Link, but also that heroic side of Link, and like recognizing like different things and recognizing what's right and wrong. Like the woman throwing the trash, the Gerudo woman throwing the trash. Link is like, dude, you're throwing trash and you're polluting. But then he'll be so gentle to someone like, oh, what's the girl's name? Kiki in Kakariko Village. You know, like her mother died and she's trying to recreate her recipes, and Link like sits with her. You make something like 15 recipes with Kiki or whatever her name is, and he talks her through it and he helps her because he's the hero. He's not just the hero of like to begin, and he's the hero to the people. And every single interaction you have with a character in Breath of the Wild, you're proving why you're the hero, but you're also judging like who's good and who's bad. Like the snow and sand boot person, he judges that person, but he is so gentle with like a child and helping her cook. I never get to talk about Zelda with anybody.
No, it's awesome.
This is what lives in my brain.
Oh, that's awesome. And you know what? It's actually a little more beautiful, even more beautiful than I already thought about it.
I wish they would actually kind of take the bold step and give Link a character or a voice,
right.
Or like, because I'm actually really scared, like now that he has his memories back in Breath of the Wild too, that we're gonna lose that aspect.
He'll shut
Link
back down. That's what I was I was actually thinking that.
Because I definitely feel that in Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity. Like he is already in that point where he's making the choice to be the Silent Knight, and you can tell of like not having the ability to like have Link answer things, and it means something to lose that, because then everybody is speaking for him and being his voice. When we just went through like a 300-hour playthrough of Breath of the Wild where he is his own voice.
I honestly didn't make that connection. But see, that's the thing. It's kind of one of those things where, I mean, it's like when somebody says something that's so simple, and something clicks and goes, yeah, of course. I've been an idiot all this time, and it took somebody just saying, yeah, that's kind of a weird choice, and you go, you know what? It really was a weird choice. Oh my gosh. It's weird how when you said that, it didn't click for me the same way.
And I think that's like, you know, so like that's what clicks with me with Zelda. Like I could probably put together 2 of the mine carts and make my own flying metallic, you know, flying thing. You know, I could learn how to fight Lionels and stuff like that, but that's not what's important to me in Zelda. Like I like the story. I like the lore. I like the characters. And
that's kind of beautiful, though. It's beautiful that they made a game that's so rich that people can play it stealthy or play it safe, more passively if they want. That's actually really something I didn't really give them enough credit for, I don't think.
And I think that's why I have to be like, don't backseat drive Rob while he plays, because like I remember certain things because I remember the character and the story interactions.
Yeah. See, I don't.
And I can't remember what I did yesterday, but Lord, could I actually like break down like the chronology of Star Wars?
And it's so funny too. It's like I'll play and I'm literally just getting in adventures and just seeing what trouble I can make for the bokoblins or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what kind of weird way can I defeat this settlement, whatever you want to call that, camp, you know?
Yeah.
And
That's fun too.
yeah, I don't know.
It's a different kind of fun. Like, and I've done that too. Like when I was very early, like one of the very first things I did, because like I said, I tend to watch video games rather than play them. So when I actually I got Breath of the Wild maybe like 2 years after the game had come out. So I've watched all these let's plays and playthroughs and stuff like that. So I knew the lore. So when I actually the first thing I did the moment I got off the plateau, and I went and I did the stuff for like Impa and not Paya, but Impa's sister, what's her name? Pura. I did all that, and I finally had the freedom to kind of like run around and stuff. The very first thing I did was go to Lurelin Village, because no one, it's not in the main quest, and I had personally, people had mentioned Lurelin, and I'd seen like videos of Lurelin, but like because there's no divine beast, there's no thing, like there's no memories or anything like that, I wanted to go to Lurelin Village. And so I got there, and it was just this magical thing because it was one of the few places that people just don't do on walkthroughs. And it was just, that was the part that was like exploring a new world because I wasn't aware of it. And so I was like going around, and I wasn't very far in the game. I only had like a handful of extra hearts, and that was it. And I got there, and of course, there's the whole side quest. They're like, those people stole my sheep, those moblins and bokoblins. Can you go rescue my sheep? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I ran over there, and I think there's these like really strong moblins, and I was like, oh crap, I don't want to fight you. So I actually like found like a perfect spot in this dune to throw bombs at them from afar for an hour and a half because the bombs are not that strong. And I eventually killed them, and I was like, I did it. And I ran over there, and I got my spoils award. I freed the sheep, and I was like, that was fun, and I got to do it in my own way. And I chose to do Lurelin Village. I was joking, like I wasn't kidding. I did all of Terrytown and my house quest to get my house in Hateno before I ever defeated a divine beast. And that takes a lot of traveling because you have to, especially for Terrytown, you have to go to all the different regions. But while I did that, I just did shrines along the way. So by the time I got to my very first divine beast, I was on my second row of hearts, and I had almost all my stamina filled up. So I got to my very first divine beast, and I was like, this is easy. And then I got to Thunderblight Ganon, and it destroyed me.
Right.
Because Thunderblight Ganon is the worst.
Yeah, Thunderblight. That is a rough one. You have to really get the flurry rush for those to work. And then of course, if you cook a
what
meal.
What I suck and I don't care about.
Yeah. But
just discovering the story and the worlds and like the little things. Like I've been slowly getting more into Hyrule Castle because again, I just don't like fighting.
Yeah.
But that's where like it's actually fun with Kilton, because then I just, depending on what room I'm in, I just change out my mask.
I do that too.
Yeah, and I love that about the whole thing with Kilton. So I was able just to like walk around Hyrule on the insides of Hyrule Castle and not having to worry about bad guys and having to fight them. And they would just like follow me around and be like, hey, what you doing, friend? I'm like, just reading in the library. They're like, that's cool. We don't know how to read. We're moblins. So
what's isn't it Majora's Mask? Is that the universal mask?
The big one?
Yeah.
The purple one with the big eyes that are like this big. Yeah, that's Majora's.
But I mean, can't you wear that and it's basically every...
I don't know, because I felt like I was wearing Majora's Mask and I got attacked at something, but it might have been a Guardian, because I don't think it works on the Guardians.
Yeah, nothing works on the Guardians, and I don't think the Lionels
yeah, the Lionels will only work for half a second. Like my favorite thing is they'll come over, like if you're wearing the Lionel mask, and it still takes Link standing like this and like looking up at the Lionel, and the Lionels will come over and be like, "What the hell are you?" I'm gonna look at you,
and then oh crap,
and they'll be like,
pulling the bow.
yeah, it's so fun. It's just like, oh, what are you? And then they just stop and they're like, that's mean. You're making fun of me. They pull out their sword ready to kill you. Yeah, I've only killed a few Lionels because I don't like fighting them.
Oh, on my other save where I've done a lot. I will every now and then just go on a Lionel hunt you know, and just do that for like 2 hours, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done for a while, and then I'll
The
do a
best part is
Guardian
that
one.
like area where you get the giant horse when there's like two, I think there.
Yeah, yeah, I've done well. I mean, there's, I don't know. I have fun doing that, and then like the other day, it was just I had some time where I was just like, well, I'm not streaming today. I'm not doing a video today. Let's hunt guardians. So I put guardians in my thing and just play in for an hour, killed guardians for an hour, and it was fun. And then I
Yeah,
cleared them all out, and there's, you're walking around. It's like my Sheikah sensor's not even beeping anymore. I killed all the guardians.
yeah.
Just kind of cool.
That's where I was like, I think it'd be fun to like just ride along while you're streaming, because I think there'd be like, right now you're in the Heber region and you were running around looking for that. And I'm just like, but we could talk about like the hole in the mountain. Like if you look at Heber for a certain
Yeah.
things, there's that big chunk taken out of it. And like there's like so many theories about like, was that where Vonaboris was? Did Vonaboris shoot that down or shoot through it and stuff like
Right.
that? No, Ruda, whatever the bird one. I don't remember which one. The
I
bird.
can't remember but the meadow, Va Meadow, right?
Yeah. And the Boris is the camel.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
Varuda is the elephant,
And
right?
then Daruk is the not only Daruk's the champion, but
I can't remember.
I don't remember. Redania?
Redania, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because Meadow is one of them is no, one of them is Rudo is the Zora one, because it's a nod to Princess Rudo from
Right.
Ocarina of Time.
Right.
So
Yeah, Nabar. Yeah, so Va Meadow, Va Naboris, Va Ruda, and
it
Va
really doesn't
Gardania.
fucking matter. It doesn't matter. But like love that lore stuff that goes with it, because there's it's such a visual world too. Like I think it was Zeltic who did there's just like this house in one of the regions, and it's clearly burned down, and there's three destroyed guardians, but all three destroyed guardians are just risen up against the house, and it's like the house exploded and took them out with them, and they got frozen. And there's so much like visual storytelling.
Yeah.
Jordan, who is Mass Nintendo Bandit, did a Halloween one, because there's this tiny little settlement in one part of um, Death Mountain, and it's away from the lava to where humans could live. But right above it, there's like a fire wizrobe kind of dancing around this burned settlement. So like just the visual storytelling of like these people probably thought that they were safe. They were so far away from the calamity. They were like
Mm.
in the like a corner of Death Mountain, and then the wizrobe showed up, and their entire like settlement is burned, because there's like clearly several houses. There's what looks to be a barn there. You can find a few treasure chests, and then there's the Wiz Road. And there's nothing else. There's no roads or anything else around it. And there's so much just visual storytelling, like just coming up on a
Mm.
structure and just like looking at the area. You can see like the story. Like when you come up to Fort Hateno, you can see the story of just walking through it, of like what happened, just without even having the memory. And you can just see where it stopped, and just like looking at like the older works versus the newer works. When you're around the Akala Citadel, you can see where the bridge broke. You can see where down below, which is the marching grounds, there's the road, because you were
Mm-hmm.
like, what, those things are in a row, what is that? I'm like, those are the marching grounds. And you can see where the guardians came around that way, and they got to the bridge and they got stopped. And then they had to, on a different part of the citadel, you can see where the head came up the side. And it's just like there's nothing there to tell you other than just visually looking at the structure, and you can see the story of how it worked out.
And taking your time, which I don't
Yeah.
typically do. I just zoom through it.
No, but that's your gameplay, and that's perfectly okay. That is just a way to play the game, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like the cinematic quality of the game,
Mhm.
and that's there's a lot of times where I try to focus on when I'm doing something, I'm trying to frame it, to where it's visually cool looking or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe it's because
I
I have a lot of artist friends, and I remember talking to somebody about this with a very simple game like Portal. Portal is a very simple game. It's a lot of black and white and stuff like that. But those moments, like when you can like get behind the panels and you see the
Oh, yeah.
graffiti, and like you see the graffiti and stuff like that. I remember sitting with my friend Jackie, who is a sequential artist. She's a comic book artist and stuff like that. And she said, I always try in video games to stop and look at that stuff because an artist like me took time to create that.
Yeah.
And so ever since she talked to me about that, like whenever there's signs or graffiti or anything else, I like to at least stop and look at it because some artist put time into that. Yeah. And sometimes it just it adds to things, and like especially when you get like updated version of stuff. There's a huge controversy about an updated version of, I think it was Twilight Princess, where in the updated one they had changed some of the stonework in Castletown, where they added something like they added a Rito, which had never been in the franchise before until Breath of the Wild. And so people are like, what does it mean? But it just turns out that the artist had concept artwork at the time. Then they were just like, this is a bird thing, let's throw a lot of birds in there. And the artist came out, was like, we didn't mean anything about it. But there was like a good like period of time where there was a lot of theories and speculation. And that's why I like fandom. Like, you know, like that's the fun of fandom, of just like speculating like the what ifs and like talking about it, you know, like people have like 4 different theories about like the king of the mountain. Like you were saying last night, like, why are there so many goats? Because he's a goat and those are his patron animals, you know? Only goats live there except for at night when the only enemies are stall enemies. You only get those. And there's thoughts that he might have defeated those enemies, the stall enemies, to protect the goats of the mountain. Like that's a theory that somebody had. I'm like, that's a cool theory that I think about every time.
But that's the first time I'd seen so many goats up there. And I don't know if it's because I went a different way.
Yeah.
When I did this stuff.
They live there like that. There's always that many goats there. They're in my game as well.
Never noticed it before, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Is this broken? There's like 75 goats over here. What's going on?
Yeah, but and then you get to thinking like, what's the story? Like, why are there goats? Like, why goats of all things when you have all these other animals that could have been there? It could have been a mixture. You could have had the deer there. You could have the boars there, but no. So it gets you thinking like, why goats? Like, why are goats important? And then you see the Lord of the Mountain and he looks kind of like a goat. And you start connecting those theories together.
I honestly thought it was a mistake because the other day I was in the because I think you weren't there because I'd mentioned the labyrinths. I did the labyrinths.
If it was a Tuesday one, like we record on Tuesdays, so probably not.
Yeah, there was anyway, whatever show it was where I was doing it. I went to there's a stable in that snow region where I fast traveled there, right? So I could do something. And there was a guy who wasn't standing, but his foot was in the right place, but he was on the ground. So his foot was bent. And I sat there and was having a conversation with this dude who was sideways on the ground.
Oh no!
So I thought my game was just glitching out when I saw the dang goats.
No,
Eagle and Vicky must fly. Bye bye. Well, we're actually getting close too because
I gotta go in a minute.
Oh my gosh, we went an extra hour instead of an extra 30.
I know. I just never get to talk about Zelda.
But no, I mean, I don't know. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't mean that you can't come on again. Later,
I know. I would love to come on again.
If you want to come on again, we can make that happen. So, but anyway,
we could do like a tour of like, I don't know how you would do it here because I don't know how I would see you without opening it, but like doing like a tour of like Hope's favorite places in Breath of the Wild and be like, okay, here's this place.
Oh, we could you know what? We could probably, oh my gosh.
I wish there was a way I could connect to my game, you know?
You're giving, well, I
know that'd be difficult. I don't even know how you do it, to be honest. Like, what is your Switch attached to?
It's I've got a capture card.
Okay.
In fact, I have 2 capture cards. So there's one for this camera that you can't see right now, but that camera is on. That is coming in with one capture card. Then my
That's your normal camera that you stream with, right?
Right.
Because that'd be the angle. Okay.
Right. Like, and then what you're seeing me on Zoom is my FaceTime camera that's built into my Mac. Then I have a separate capture card for the Switch, and that is plugged in via a little. And I've got I've done this enough and messed with it enough and done enough research that I've got a really, really nice thing here, because I've got a hub with buttons. So what I do is, it's time to stream. I go click, 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 turns on everything, turns my camera on, turns everything's on. And then when I'm done, I can just go click, 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 and it's not drawing any extra power. It was really nice. And it was a cheap $20-something hub that allows me to do that. But yeah, I could do it where you could pull up an extra. Now you'd be delayed, but you could see the stream, right? You could see the gameplay, and both of our images are in the corner. I never understood why more streamers don't do that, because there's a lot of games where people will play together, and I assume it's just because there would be a delay.
I mean, that's kind of, I mean, that's what Game Grumps does, and that's what they've been actually doing during, as they call it, the Backstreet Boys tour, but during COVID, where Danny is on the delay. He's delayed by a few seconds, but like he sits, like Aaron plays the game and Dan watches, and they just do their show, because that's what they would normally do. You know, normally they'd just be on the couch together doing their show. Yeah,
but we could totally do that. You're giving me ideas. I mean, this could be really fun. We could sit here and talk about, oh, look at this area of the whatever, and then we can go back to, like, this screen is, you know, it's got your image on the left and me on the right, and then, you know, it's got like a moving background in the background. It's kind of cool, and then
I know he's not here anymore. I've had Bucho just be like, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, but it could be one of those things where we can switch between them, and I've got which I don't know if I can show this without drawing things. If I can do this.
Don't.
I can't do
it. No,
but it's my Stream Deck. And the Stream Deck allows me to switch camera angles, switch different scenes in OBS. So I can have like right now I've got it where I can go single on me. I can have the two of us, or I can just have you. So just basically a close up of you. So then, and I can switch between them just like a TV show, like a guy in the control room can do that, you know?
Yeah, I promise I'm listening. I'm plugging something in.
But we could totally do. Man, that could be fun. Have you narrating as I'm going around some weird area, and you're like,
I would be so bad, because like just last night you were just like, oh, like let me go find this memory, and I was like, no, it's north. You're going the wrong way. It's the other way. Rob! Because you went to like Lake Colocomo, and so you have the thing there, and then you have the lake, right? And like if you're looking at the map, you have the thing, and then you have the lake, and then you have the trees around it. The little like inlet island right there, that's where the talus was, and then the memories up here, because I remember distinctly fighting the talus while I was trying to find the memories, because I accidentally woke it up, and you're just like, oh, okay, and I just started going south, and I was like, Rob, no, the memory's the other way. I'd be a horrible backseat Zelda driver, like absolutely
it
horrible.
Yeah, it could be fun. I don't know, we'll see. But and I choked the whole spit.
I did that. It's good luck.
It's good luck.
That's what I tell myself. But I have GERD, so I'm constantly choking on like everything under the sun. So I'm just like, I'm burping and choking. It has to be good luck, because I'm.
That reminds me of, you know, like those little things where you're like, oh yeah, this silly thing happened. Yeah, that's good luck. This was my I guess my first real girlfriend back when I was like 18 or whatever. We both smoked. Okay, we both smoked cigarettes, right? And you know how sometimes if you're lighting a cigarette in the wind, only half, because you used to smoke, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We both vape now, by the way. But anyway, when you lit it and only one side of the cigarette would light, and you'd have that like piece of paper just kind of sticking up, she would say, that means somebody loves you. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It means you don't know how to light a cigarette properly. That's what that means. You know? Or you're in the wind and you have no control over it. I just thought it was funny.
I actually almost got into a horrible... If my best friend wasn't with me, in the car with me, I could have gotten into a horrible accident because of a cigarette. Because I was driving, and we were driving through the mountains. So my best friend was in the car with me, and an ember, I was smoking, and an ember came up and hit me in the eye. So all I saw was red, and because I just had literal fire in my eye, and I was driving, and I just hear my best friend go, and all she said was, slowly put on the brake. And she had grabbed the wheel, and she had gotten us off the road so I could get out and like flush my eyes. And that was about the time I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then it took me even like, quitting is the hardest. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, it took me having a horrible ear infection to the point of vomiting and not feeling like smoking for me to at least break cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult to quit. So difficult.
Yeah.
And I've been working my way down off of vaping. I've been mixing a 0 and a 3 together. Yep. And I have a little bottle about this big, and I started about half, and I'm down to about this much nicotine in the bottle. And so that's like one of my goals this year is to like be completely off by Celebration. So, because I would like to go to Celebration next year. So
yeah, I love it. so I'm probably not gonna quit, but that's just because I love it. It's a thing. But hey, I need to let you go because you've got.
I have some things I need to do.
You've got things to do and places to be and all that kind of stuff, and that's great. That's okay. So what we're gonna do is, I already said. In fact, I'm just gonna put this in chat right now. There's J Guys and Jedi. You can go to that link if you're interested. You can go to a.
You want me to just share it?
I've got. Wait.
We can say it. And
I did it wrong. Hope makes Chris watch cartoons. There you go. And then, of course, that has everything. So if you're interested, anybody's interested, especially on the replay, you can see it in chat. There you go. And you can go find Hope wherever you want to find Hope. It's in all those places.
Hope has certain places that she wants people to find her.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
But Hope, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I had a blast today.
I had so much fun too.
I hope you did too, yeah.
If you guys do want to come hang out with me, I do have a website called geekygirlexperience.com. And if you like what I talk about, pretty much I've written about almost everything I've talked about, except for Zelda. I don't get to write about Zelda as much as I would like to. But yeah, I mean, everything else is there. J Guys and Jedi. I talked animation with my friend Chris. We're currently going through Gravity Falls, and we're about to start Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he's watching these shows for the first time. That's the whole thing, is that he's never watched these shows. So I'm forcing him to watch my favorite shows, which is animation. And I love animation. Oh, we'll have to talk more about animation next time because it's such an important media.
Oh, it's so good.
Actually, here's my final thought on. People should be paying attention to animation because in 5, 10, 15 years, those are your audience members when you're making content. So what kids and teenagers are consuming now, I mean, that's the Avatar generation, you know? They're all now adults as the Avatar generation. So people who are watching stuff like She-Ra and Infinity Train and Kippo and Owl House and stuff like that, they're going to be old enough with jobs and money. So media companies need to pay attention to them.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just like the kids that grew up with Star Wars grow up and what do they want? They want more Star Wars, dang it. But for sure.
This was so much fun, Rob. Thank you for letting me gush about Zelda and my Zelda thoughts.
Oh, of course.
That's what I was actually like. I'm like, I talk Star Wars and animation all the time. I want to talk about Zelda.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, I had a blast. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, go to her content. I'm telling you, there's so much great stuff on her website, on her podcast. Chris is amazing too.
Yes, Chris
would love to have him on at some point.
Chris is my co-podcaster, and he is a delight. Like we are from 2 different generations. He's like 20 years older than me. I'm a millennial. He is whatever, but Gen Z, Gen X, whatever the gen is. I don't know. But he's really a ton of fun, and I couldn't do it without him. Like, he's my co-podcaster. Like, he means the world to me. But it's it's fun talking to other people too.
Oh yeah, it's great. So anyway, thank you, Hope. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Drink water, take your meds, get rest, eat food, unclench your jaw, and relax your shoulders. You know, it's a long year.
All of those things.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.
Guys.
And thank you to Hope. Thank you to Rez. Thank you to Rez for the host. I didn't even see that. Thank you so much. Bye.